I've pressed it.
Perfect. And I'm going to join the stream so I can chat with everybody. There we go. Hey, everybody. I guess we might as well just play the theme song all the way through while we finish getting set up a little bit. Where did I put it?
Play the whole one. All 7 minutes of it.
It's only 4 minutes and 20 seconds. Oh, my text message is up there.
Are you hearing it?
I'm hearing it. I'm not hearing anything back.
Okay.
I don't want to hear it on the stream.
Well, we're up to 12 viewers already. Welcome to the show, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
This, of course, is Battery Day. Yeah, like you didn't know that. Here we are at, 4 p.m. Eastern or so, and we are going to get this live stream set up. We'll probably have to play with a few things. We'll ask your help to respond to us to see if we're getting the audio okay. And then the plan is, once Elon hits the stage, we're going to try to pipe that right in to the software stream. So that's what we're planning today. And of course, with me as always, Mr. Kacey Green joins us from the stand-up desk today. How are you today, Kacey?
I'm doing pretty well. How y'all doing?
Excellent, excellent. And Mr. Patrick Connor is set to join us as well. He might be getting to us a little bit closer to the 4:30 mark.
All right. I want to shout out some people in the chat. We've got Zachary P. We've got Hockey Day. We've got Ali. We've got Thomas. And Hockey Day says he can hear us. Really choppy audio. Let me pause our audio and is it better?
Let's see if that works any better on the choppy audio front.
Yep. Check out that control panel and make sure it says that we're still sending them enough data.
It shows excellent condition on the control panel.
Okay. Maybe it just doesn't like my music. All right, let me make sure that it's grabbing our sources directly. And make sure the audio is not peaking. It's probably what it was. No, it's not peaking. All right. How's everybody doing today? Hockey Day says it's better.
That's good.
Excellent.
Yes, indeed.
Derek and Basit.
Who else we got? We got like 15
Derek,
now.
Yeah. Got young Kim as well. Awesome. Good to see everybody.
Excellent.
We're getting started. We're just waiting on... we should probably take a poll and see what everybody thinks about Elon time today. Yeah, we
should. Because Elon has never been on time for one of these.
He's been really close.
He's getting better, but he's never actually been fully on time.
We should see if the curmudgeon friend has got some time to deal with us. Let's send him an invite and see what happens. All right, I'm going to turn off the active speaker view until we have more than 2 people because it just has 2 copies of you. Turn that off for now.
I see that. There's 2 of me.
There we go. What I could also do, but I don't know if Patrick's going to show up once he signs in. I could turn off the Tesla feed until there's something going on.
Yeah, probably just wait until Patrick shows up and then we can shut down as required.
Yeah. Well,
so we'd hate to shut down prematurely and then Patrick doesn't get a spot.
Make a room for him and there's no room.
Exactly.
Oh, man.
Exactly.
It is so refreshing to have a live chat with you guys again. I mean, we usually have gotten so used to having to have it in like the Premiere format. So like we're talking and we're typing over ourselves talking, and now like it's a 2-way interaction again.
Yes, indeed. Now we had to jump through a number of hoops to make this happen,
Yes.
And we're not completely sure that we'll be able to get the proper audio mix when the live stream starts from Tesla. So we do have a backup contingency, but we're going to try it and see if this new software will allow us to kind of mix that information together.
Yep. And I've got some hardware
but,
in one of these moving boxes. If that doesn't work, but that'll be for a whole nother next time. Google left us high and dry. If you guys aren't aware of the backstory of why we ended up going to premieres instead of lives. We used to just have the software, and Google pulled the plug. Even if you were a paying customer, it was just not an option for us. So.
Yep, we were left high and dry on that.
You've got a 1 week warning. Oh crap! We've got a show in a week.
Okay, so since we've got a live chat room, let's ask the audience now up to 18 or 19. Let's ask them, how late will the presentation be?
Put a number.
It is supposed to be
in the chat.
4:30. So how many minutes late do you believe Tesla is going to be with the start of the presentation?
Let's see.
And we'll get a few things. Now, Kacey, on your end in the chat room, do you see anyone responding to that question? I don't on my end.
I don't see anybody responding. Tesla stream is live already, really. Let me refresh this.
Come on, Hockey Day. I'm sure you've got a number in mind.
All right, let's try it from the investor side.
Okay, we got a guess of 35 minutes from Bruno.
Okay, that's much more than the last year they gave us. I want to say good looking out for Bruno. So Tesla's telling us 20 minutes. How long?
Got a 45 from Zachary.
45? How long do you think they're going to extend this timer beyond what they say? So if I don't maximize it, it is no scroll bar. If I do maximize it, there's a flipping scroll bar.
The question was, if you've missed it, how late will Tesla be in minutes
13
from the start?
20 from Hockey Day, 13 from Andres.
Andrew's joining us from Europe.
45 from Zachary.
It'd be a little bit earlier for you today, Andrews. Not in the middle of the night, not 2 a.m.
Yes.
for you. That's a plus.
So I've got the Skype here. I need a third monitor hooked up to this thing. I didn't think I ever would.
Drag in that iPad.
Guess I could make everything smaller, but I really don't want to do that. Don't move the live stream. Okay. So we learned last night during our rehearsal that the click gutter on my broadcast app is extremely sensitive. So if you saw our video shift there, that's what happened. Oh, you know what I could do? I could just push it off the edge of the screen a little bit so that scroll bar is gone. Ha-ha! Boom! Technical solutions.
There you go.
Lots of Model Y headed right there on the 402. It'll blow our mind. That's what Elon promised us.
402, for those you don't know, is the Sarnia border point with Ontario that runs to London and then connects to the 401, which is the major artery in Ontario.
There you go. All right, they're claiming 18 minutes.
Hockey Day, of course, is based in Sarnia, so he's always watching the roads.
I want to take a moment to thank Lee Moon for that beautiful intro music.
That's right. Lee graciously provides us with the intro and exit music we use every week.
How do I re-ring Patrick? It says he's in here. I guess I could re-add him. That'll do the trick.
Well, he hasn't. He's not on the Skype call yet.
Yeah. Did Russell ever respond to you yesterday? Somebody asked if he was gonna be a part of this.
Russell had indicated that
He wasn't interested. Here, you
when
wanna
we went
talk?
for the testing, he was not available.
Yeah.
But he was available later on. I said, "Oh, we got it down pat." So
Good.
Can you hear me?
responded
We
a
hear
little bit
you.
later. I can hear you,
Now
Patrick.
let's see if
Yep.
we can
right.
see you. All right, so I see you, and
Yeah.
and Mark sees you.
You can't. I have the door closed here. Yeah.
Ah, that's why.
All right, I'm number
Yeah.
one.
Okay. I just got done with work 10 minutes ago, and I just
I know the feeling.
reinstalled Skype. So I gotta go get dressed.
Oh.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, keep a
Well,
cover
we're
on.
live now with 12 people viewing, so
Hi, people.
that's a good idea.
Yeah. I'll be back.
All right, there's Patrick. All right, he has a square now. Done. His square is teeny tiny. Let's fix that. So, all right, there we go. So you got 3 of us in a row. That's probably sufficient.
So another question to the audience waiting in the wings is what do you think will be the big ticket item that is talked about today? There's going to be several items, it sounds like. But what do you believe will be the very top ticket item that Tesla reveals today? There's going to be a few choices. Certainly, there's going to be about battery longevity, its density, its ability to store energy. We've heard recently that Elon was kind of keeping I guess it was expectations at bay, letting us know that Tesla production in mass is probably going to take 2022. They also indicated that they're going to still be ramping up purchase from all the different battery suppliers, including their current one, Panasonic, and others.
Is that echo gone?
Oh, Mark, is that going according to Hockey Day?
Yeah. I think that it was coming back in a loop, Patrick, so I just muted Patrick for now.
Okay. We'll see if that gets any better. And Hockey Day is saying stop, stop, stop. There's still echo appearing.
Yeah, but don't forget
But the chat
the delay
is a moment behind.
Yeah, the chat's a moment behind. Is it all right, from me asking now, is the echo still going on? Yes or no? The only source I see talking is me and you. It's good now.
It's
okay.
good now. Good now.
Good. All right, so
thumbs up.
So the next thing we need is when Patrick gets back, we can put his headphones in, because if they can hear it, then it's strong.
What can they hear? I have my headphones in.
They're hearing the echo.
Yeah, I've got. Oh, this isn't focused yet.
It's not focused.
Yeah, I have headphones in.
Okay.
I just thought, Patrick, you were just basically blurry today. That's all I thought.
Yeah, this is kind of how I feel. Maybe after battery day, I'll have some clarity in my life.
As you can see, Patrick has entered the witness protection program.
Okay. Can anybody hear Patrick before I touch his volume?
Can you guys hear me? Test 1, 2.
We can definitely hear you. How about the chat room? Can you hear Patrick? Indicate Patrick yes or something like that.
All right, speak again so they can hear you, Patrick.
Hello.
He's fine. Okay. Says Hockey Day.
I don't know how you're going through without a mic, but whatever. Let's keep it.
Okay. Yeah. What do you mean without a mic? I have
on the software we're using to do the stream.
Oh, okay. All right.
So whatever source you're coming through, the one I turned off was the duplicate, so we're good. They said to check out the Tesla YouTube, and I didn't see. What was I looking for?
Tesla just redid their investor relations
They did.
page.
They made it nice and pretty. Somebody said they were using some of that $5 billion.
We did the capital raise for a new webpage.
Right. Let me change this view. I don't see them with a live stream or anything. Wait, yep, there we go. Let me see if it's different than the one we've got over here, which is to my right. Oh, they are messing with us. How many streams can these people run?
for these kinds of things, and it has listened to webcasts, but then it also says there's going to be a webcast, but there's no link for that.
Right. Well, no,
So-
they've got this in the background. I'll maximize this. They've got this in the background with the timer going on, and they've got maybe I should do one to the left and one to the right.
Any news from the annual report? Oh, that's 2019. That's
I didn't see anything yet.
yeah. This is not a quarterly conference call, so I wouldn't expect that new financial stuff.
So Quez indicates all three voices are coming through fine as well. Oh,
Oh,
and now we got a choppy again, choppy.
I wonder if the video making it choppy. And what I can do about that, let's see. Tesla's not making any noise on my side. Are you guys hearing the Tesla audio?
I am not.
You wouldn't.
Nope.
I mean, as our guests hearing the Tesla audio.
Well, he's just,
Sorry.
you asked a question.
Let me close down the leave room music. That should help a little bit. And then audio source 2 is Mark. Audio input capture. So reading my mic directly. And then audio output is showing that's not doing anything. I'm going to check something real quick. See if on my phone that particular Tesla stream has any sound.
And Patrick has exited.
Bye,
What?
Patrick.
He's
Alright.
exited the
Blurry zone?
witness protection program.
is my focus finally?
It finally came in.
You can see Beyond Oil.
Beyond Oil T-shirts.
Yep, yep. Battery Day is going to help put another nail in that coffin.
We suspect so.
Okay, they match. And there is definitely no sound on the phone. So this is just them showing B-roll, which is fine.
Okay. So, Hockey Day, can you let us know if the audio is still choppy with the video showing?
Quest requested a shout out.
I gave him one.
Oh, you did? Yeah, shout outs.
Still choppy audio.
I'm now putting it 28 megs. Let me switch to our screen on the phone and see if that changes anything.
Still choppy audio. Video's okay.
It's pretty choppy audio.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, shall we look at alternate plans? What I'm going to do is I'm going to end my side of the stream
I'll
and
be right back.
kick it right back on. See if that.
Okay.
If I see it go blank. Okay, that's reconnecting.
And it'll be interesting to see if today, there will be some other announcements, maybe outside of batteries and longevity and cost. Is there going to be anything about the S or the X? Is there anything about a refresh? Is there going to be anything about maybe some future plans outside of batteries? Is there going to be anything about possibly maybe a world car announcement? Is there? It's really a mixed bag here because, of course, Battery Day has now been delayed over 2 months. from when it was supposed to first hit the airwaves. And I believe Elon was trying to wait out COVID to see if he could get a larger audience that would be live in studio. But of course, we know that has not happened. So they decided to pull the trigger for the 22nd.
Just in case, even though YouTube played better yesterday. So I'm going to end this and bring it back, and then we'll be back more better.
This going off the peg, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's currently sitting at 36 megabits a second up.
Right now, Kacey's provider is wondering why all this bandwidth is heading towards his condo.
What is this guy doing? Like he's running a broadcast studio or something.
So I'm not hearing any audio from Tesla at
No.
all. It's just their B-roll.
It's just
no
the
audio.
Yeah, it's just the B-roll that's from.
Yeah, normally they have some.
I'm going to pause the video and see if that makes it any better for us.
All right, video pausing.
So, everybody, let me know if you hear choppiness. So
Testing 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 1,
And the
2.
video on the stream looks like it's paused now.
It is. It sure is.
And we'll see if the video or audio is now gotten better.
And it is. All right, let me check out my stats. I don't think I'm hurting the system too hard. The fan.
Hockey Day indicates it's better now.
Oh, it is better now. Okay. Oh, my
All
CPU
right.
is banging up. I might have to lower the output to the stream.
Yep, and Bruno confirms the better audio now.
All right.
You guys can see out there is a bit of a lag. So when we say something now, it might take a moment or two to get to your end.
All right, I'll play this again. Let's see if the audio degrades again.
All right, we're going to try to fire up the video with different settings. And we'll see if it gets choppy or stays good.
Yep. And it's currently playing with sound, even though it doesn't have anything going on.
Video is now rolling
Right.
on the stream.
Let me find my audio adapters.
Do
So
we sound choppy?
Looking to hear if our voices are now choppy on the audio.
They are choppy. All right, so I mute the
I
stream.
can hear somebody tapping their desk though.
I mute the stream. Does it get any better? All right, so the stream is now muted.
Choppy audio. Message has come in. Yep. Another confirmed on the choppy.
Still choppy. Okay, but the stream muted. I forgot to put the stream muted part on. Oh, it's clear as heck. Okay, so I'll add an audio source. Let me get that guy out.
All right, we're coming up on just under 4 minutes for
Will they
Tesla
start
time.
on time? Yeah.
We've already had some guesses on how much late it's going to be. Audio's now good.
So what do we
Careful-
expect
careful,
to hear
Kacey.
today? What are the wild guesses that we have in the chat room there? So we expect to hear the million-mile battery. There's been the leak of the larger cell size.
I don't know which of these is the microphone.
The dry electrode from who'd they buy?
Max,
Maxwell.
no.
Yeah, Maxwell.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at least those three. And what else?
Do they go
else?
outside of battery, Patrick? Is there a possibility that they talk maybe about, I don't know, a refresh? Do they talk anything about another vehicle? Do they talk about Austin?
Right. Those are all good questions. Yeah, since and what vehicles are these new batteries going to go into? Are they going to go across the line? Are they just going to use them in the semi or the roadster or the Cybertruck? Maybe just those three. Uh, it'll be very interesting to find out. And then if they are going to go into those three, they're building the truck and in Austin. So will they put in a battery fab there as part of that?
Exactly. And then there's the interest that if the truck and the semi are going to use the same battery, that maybe this new leak that we saw, what kind of performance increase are we going to hear from them as to what this battery is really capable of?
Mm-hmm.
Will it be weight? Will it be energy density? Will it be cooling ability? Will it be all things? It's going to be interesting to hear what the details are of that, if that leak is indeed what Project Roadrunner is working on.
Right. Yeah, I was trying to come up with a good analogy for how to explain that new size of the cell. And we said a small soda can, but maybe I think it's more like a toilet paper roll.
Yeah. Or, here in Canada, they're like a little 6-pack of V8s that are in little cans, miniature cans. That may not be the same in the States or where you are residing watching this. But it is smaller than a soda can, it appears. Maybe
Are they
maybe a
300,
third smaller.
300 milliliter, maybe?
Yeah, so this this
About
soda
8
can,
ounces?
this is a 355 milliliter. So,
Or 12
maybe
ounce down here.
we're talking instead of 355, my guess would be we're probably sitting around 250.
Okay. Yeah, so about an 8-ounce can instead of a 12-ounce can.
Yeah.
You want to go with those old school units.
Those American units now.
Yeah.
It's you guys and that's it.
Yep.
Echoing that the audio is great.
Perfect.
No problems there.
So if these batteries really do have a 1,000,000-mile capability, would that mean that Tesla would open up the idea of vehicle to home?
That would be nice.
Yeah. It's equivalent to a lot of power.
That with auto bidder is something that we're expecting at some point down the line. But we've seen this, of course, with utilities now. England, Australia are now on the auto bidder program for utilities, not for cars.
Right.
But certainly the virtual power plant, which we've heard notes of even in Canada and the US, a couple of smaller utilities have implemented a small virtual power plant. Having all these cars out there sitting with 100 pack batteries certainly could be used for that, and if those batteries are 1,000,000 miles, I think they would get involved with that. Absolutely.
Okay, so I've got the audio from Tesla coming in through the iPad floor. See if that does the trick.
Okay.
I don't know if that means any of us will hear it, so I might dial in on the phone and keep the volume down low so I can hear you on speed. But thankfully I've got filter on, so it should not take him up twice.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know. The nice thing about this is Tesla has an incredible pace of innovation. And we've got, all these ideas we're knocking around now. And regardless of what they do or don't announce today, that doesn't mean they won't be announcing the next thing 3 months or 6 months or next year. We don't expect these batteries to be in production or in products you can buy until 2022.
Right.
So maybe they don't want to announce too much yet. If they just focus on the technology. If you think about this is not a product unveiling, it's battery investor day. And when they did their full self-driving investor day, that was about their plans, not about here's what you can get right now. They had just started doing their full self-driving computers. They were not yet in production. They were in their final stages of test, if I remember correctly. And they certainly did roll out pretty soon after that. But it was, like I said, not an unveiling. So same with today. We expect to see these in 18 months, not tomorrow.
Right.
We always have to worry about the Osborne effect with stuff like this. How many people are going to delay a purchase? And if you wait 18 months, that's just 18 months where you don't have the vehicle you want.
and in Tesla's case, do they want to announce something where they put a large amount of people on a waiting? Probably not.
Right.
Similar to what we had heard about the talk about a refresh on the S and the X. Elon came out and said quite plainly, listen, we're going to be putting little updates in place over time. There is no refresh coming in the foreseeable future.
Right. So that's why my first thought was they're going to say these batteries are first going to roll out in something like the Roadster, the Cybertruck, or the Semi.
Yeah.
Because those are people are already waiting for those, so they don't end up Osborning themselves at all.
Exactly.
And the Roadrunner project is a small pilot. It's not like they have. I assume they're not going to be able to produce these in huge quantities to take over their entire product line. I think that they have to start out small and ramp up, and maybe license to some other battery company.
So check the audio. Just start the other one. It went from a timer to a copy of the YouTube video.
Okay. We are 3 minutes into the overtime.
All right. Anybody who had 2 minutes late has lost. I'm guessing nobody said.
No one said 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I think I can probably
no one bidded $1, Patrick. Nobody did.
This is a copy of the stream.
The price is right, Bob.
It's not muted though. Right. How are we now? It's muted on the main screen, and just one.
Kacey is echoing.
I am echoing.
Kacey is echoing. Is just Kacey.
Okay.
I might need to have two different headphones, one to hear you guys and one to hear Tesla.
For sure. Okay, so mine is showing up on stream 1 and on source. You're right. I am echoing. Oh, I see.
If you're watching the podcast now and have the ability to click on that thumbs up button, please do so. That helps us, gets us in front of more eyes, and would be much appreciated.
If I kill this, there should only be one of me now, right?
Give us a countdown, Kacey.
1, 2, 1, 2, and then see at some point when Patrick gets back if we still heal him. I can always swap the two because I was in there twice. And it is definitely on Elon time. Alright, everyone else but me is, can we get an update on that, please, Hockey? And then after we confirm that I'm good, I'm going to unmute Tesla, and then hopefully they don't. Okay, I'm good. So unmute them here. Hopefully they don't start choppiness, and hopefully they don't echo.
Everything sound good?
Unplug the iPad if I have to. Alright, so Tesla's on. Are we choppy now? And can you still hear Patrick? Is another question. Patrick, can you give us a count test?
I think he's unplugged right
Oh,
now.
he's unplugged? Oh, when he gets back.
Now he's plugged.
There we go.
All right, give it.
I need this extender to get to the other computer under my desk.
I know that feeling. All right, Choppy, let me mute.
Choppy is
We're here. And the battery is full on that iPad, so we should be able to go for a couple hours.
I hope it's not that long.
It could be, Elon. The other question is, are the levels going to be good on that? Because, well, we can always fix the levels. But the choppy is gone, affirm. And can we hear Patrick?
Patrick has his other earphone in. He can't hear us.
Much better, he says. I didn't say much better. He said better.
Yep, better.
And now we're just looking here if we can hear Patrick on the stream. All right, better. Is Patrick audible on the stream when he speaks?
Can you hear me now? Test 1, 2. Anybody? Hello?
T plus
We
9
can hear you.
Oh. You were just not answering me, making me wonder.
Oh, we hear you. The question is, can the stream hear you?
Okay.
Because I flicked down. There were two bars moving when I spoke. Flicked one of them down.
Approaching 9 minutes over.
Oh yeah.
Bruno's keeping track of that. That's good, Bruno.
Did anybody have 10 minutes?
Yeah, did anybody have 10 minutes? Starlink required.
Yeah. No one's got a Starlink account.
All right, cool. So it sounds like they can hear Patrick. They can hear us for the echoing. And then whenever Tesla starts, hopefully it just streams in. And what would be awesome is if I can hear them through this headphone. But if not, I've got the phone here. Cool. All right, so everybody, type in the chat what your biggest prediction is for the surprise that Elon got for us. I mean, obviously we're gonna get
Number one.
bigger batteries, longer lasting batteries. But what is the surprise we got coming up? Bikini Bottom.
I want a refreshed Model X. As there one more thing.
I would love a refresh Model X.
I don't think it's going to happen. But
Let me get this. Let me get the whole thing though, Patrick. That of course would be an over-the-air update. Over-the-air update with new fenders. Look at that.
I get that the Model S is going to get the update, but we haven't seen anything for the Model S. Plaid for the Model S. Are we going to get plaid for the Model X?
Right. And I don't need the speed features, but I do. It would be nice to see some updates. The heat pump and more range, and stuff like that.
Lower prices, yeah. They dropped the price on the power pack by $50,000 just a few minutes before this all started. Not the power wall, but the power pack.
Right, the power pack.
So it's
I was not going to say how much is a power wall if they're dropping $50,000 out of it.
Flying pads for cars and human homes. I mean, he did say he needed 400 kilowatt hours or 400 watt hours a kilogram to look at airplanes and VTOL. Elon wearing a plaid suit? Yep. He's definitely going to be doing that. He hinted at it.
He hinted with a picture of Herb Tarlick from WKRP.
I didn't know who that was.
Kacey, you're too young to get that reference. Yeah.
What can I say? Check my sugar real quick. Last thing we need is passing out in the middle of the stream.
Yeah, that wouldn't work.
I'm going to open these now, though, so if there's any crinkling, it doesn't happen over Elon. Open them all the way. No continuance.
So now we're about 11 minutes over.
11 minutes over.
So one of the predictions. Oh, wait, here we go. I'll stop talking.
You hear something?
There's a guy that came out on stage.
There he is.
So it'll be coming to the stream here in a moment.
I still don't have sound for him.
Click for me. We got audio input capture.
There we go. Someone's on stage. Looks like an outdoor stage.
That's good with the, what we got going on at current events.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Can you guys hear him speaking on the stream?
I heard him.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Tesla's 2020
annual meeting of stockholders.
Oh, you hear him through the...
We're really excited that you could be here with us today.
Yep.
Wow. I can't
My name is Al Prescott. I'm Tesla's Vice President of Legal. There'll be two parts of today's meeting. First, the formal part of the meeting will get out of the way, which will cover the 7 items that stockholders have been asked to vote on.
Silent.
After the voting, I'll introduce Tesla's co-founder and CEO, Elon Musk, who'll give a presentation about the company update and year in review. And then following the conclusion of the stockholder meeting, we'll start our separate Battery Day event.
I'm hearing his voice lately.
At this time, I'd like to thank the members of the Tesla team and our board, especially those who were able to make it out here in person today, as well as to our representative from PricewaterhouseCoopers, Tesla's independent auditor, who's also here. But before we begin, I'd like to introduce you to Robin Denholm, the chairwoman of Tesla, who would like to say a few words remotely.
Thank you, Al. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2020 Tesla shareholder meeting. A special welcome to the many Tesla shareholders that have joined us today in person, as well as online from across the country and around the globe. I wanted to start today's proceedings by thanking you, our shareholders, for your tremendous support over the last year, and especially to those of you who have been with us through our journey over the past 10 years since the company's IPO in 2010. While we have stayed true to our mission of accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy, in many ways, our company has evolved beyond recognition over the past decade, and that is a great thing. In fact, the pace of developments and the evolution of Tesla has further accelerated over the past 15 months since I last addressed you in June of 2019. You'll hear more about many of the specific achievements from Elon later in the agenda, but I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of our Tesla employees across the globe who have done a tremendous job of executing and staying focused on delivering for our customers and shareholders as the world has gone through one of the most challenging periods in our lifetimes. As a board, we have always taken a long-term view. We have made decisions and supported decisions made by the management team that may not have seemed obvious at the time, but are delivering and will continue to deliver breakthrough results. But it's also important to remember why we do this. As a company, we are focused on addressing one of the biggest environmental challenges of our generation: how to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. The last year in particular has seen a tremendous increase in momentum in the movement to sustainable energy from both shareholders and the general public. So in addition to developing amazing clean transportation and energy products, we are doing our part by contributing the right facts and information to this important issue. And we released an extended version of our impact report in April of 2020. In this year's version, we have covered in great detail many areas that are important to our shareholders and our customers alike, such as our environmental impact, greenhouse and other noxious gas elimination, our supply chain efforts, especially in cobalt, and our culture and people focus. We hope that by continuing to put this data out there, we will underscore to the world the importance and impact that we are having as a company. Lastly, continuous feedback and input from our shareholders is essential for us to do our jobs, and I would like to thank you for your support in this regard. Many of you have provided me and the team with ideas and insights that we as a board take into consideration as we evolve our governance and company practices. It's especially crucial to the board members as we pride ourselves in adaptability and the diversity of thought and experience that we collectively represent on the board. This brings me to my final 2 things today. As today is his last shareholder meeting, on behalf of the board, I would like to sincerely thank Steve Jurvetson for over a decade of service to Tesla, the board, and our shareholders. You will be missed. Finally, I would like to introduce to you our newest member of the board, Hiro Mizuno. who until recently led the largest pension fund in the world. He brings a wealth of experience to the board, but let me hand over to Hiro to say a few words. Hiro.
Thank you, Robin. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Tesla Annual Shareholders Meeting. It is my real pleasure to virtually meet you, Tesla shareholders, people who believe in Tesla's mission and its growth opportunities. I spent all my career in finance and asset management in Tokyo, New York, London, and Silicon Valley. Until recently, I was the Chief Investment Officer of GPIF, $1.5 trillion Japanese public pension fund. And one of my priorities as an investment chief was to promote responsible investments, which aim to make financial returns while pursuing ESG agenda such as environment and social issues. I believe in the market where ESG is becoming mainstream, purpose or mission-driven businesses will gain long-term investor support. This is why I was interested in Tesla, where mission is to accelerate the world transition to sustainable energy. I'm very excited to join the Tesla team on that journey and hope to assist Tesla deliver what investors expect by further enhancing its environmental and social impact. Once again, Tesla shareholders, thanks for your support. I'm looking forward to seeing you in person next year. Thank you.
I will now call the meeting to order. Please refer to the
Robin and Hiro.
that has been provided to you.
I will now call the meeting to order.
Also to our virtual meeting
Please refer
site.
to the meeting agenda that has
The
been
time is
provided
now
to you
1:49 p.m. Pacific time,
and posted
I
also
declare
to our
the polls
virtual
are
meeting
now
site.
open.
The time is now
We've already
1:49 p.m.
received
Pacific
voting
time, and I
proxies
declare
from
that the
stockholders
polls
over
are now
past few
open.
weeks, meaning that almost all of the
We've already
votes
received
that
voting
will be
proxies
counted
from
were already
stockholders
submitted
over the
before
past
meeting.
few weeks,
However,
meaning that almost
if
all
you
of the
wish
votes
to vote
that
now
will be counted were already
change your
submitted
prior
before the
vote,
meeting.
you may do so
However,
through the virtual
if
meeting
you
site.
wish to vote now,
For those that
or
are
to
here
change your
in
prior
person
vote,
today, ballots
you may
and
do so
ballot
through the
boxes
virtual
are
meeting
available to
site.
you at check-in.
For those that are here
Tesla's
in
board
person
of
today,
directors has
ballots
appointed
and ballot
Computershare
boxes
Trust
were
Company
available to you at
to
check-in.
serve as Inspector of Elections for the
Tesla's
meeting.
board of directors has appointed Computershare
has
Trust
taken
Company
and signed
to serve as
an oath
Inspector of Elections for the meeting.
and has certified
Computershare
that
has
starting
taken
on
and signed
August 13th,
an oath as
2020,
Inspector of
the proxy
Election
material
and
or
has
notice of
certified
internet
that starting
availability of
on
the proxy
August
material
13th, 2020,
were mailed or
the
provided
proxy
to all
material
Tesla stockholders
or a notice of
of record
internet
as of
availability
July
of the
31,
proxy material
2020.
were mailed or provided to
We have a
all
majority
Tesla
of the
stockholders
outstanding
of
shares
record as of
represented
July
at the
31,
meeting.
2020.
So I declare that
We
there
have a
is no
majority
quorum
of the
present
outstanding shares
and that we may
represented
proceed
at the
with
meeting. So I declare
The
that there
items
is
on
now
the
a quorum
agenda
present
are as follows.
that we may proceed with the meeting.
election of 3 Class 1
The items on the
directors,
agenda are
Elon
as
Musk,
follows.
Robin Denholm,
The election of
Hiromichi
3
Mizuno,
Class 1 directors,
to each serve for a
Elon
term
Musk,
of 3 years.
Robin Denholm, and Hiromichi
To
Mizuno,
approve Tesla's
to each
executive
serve for a term
compensation
of 3
on
years.
an advisory basis.
2, to approve
And 3,
Tesla's executive
to ratify the
compensation
appointment
on an
of
advisory basis.
PricewaterhouseCoopers, LLP, as
And
Tesla's
3,
independent
to ratify the appointment
public accounting
of
firm for the
PricewaterhouseCoopers,
fiscal year of
LLP, as Tesla's independent registered
Tesla's board
public accounting firm
has recommended
for
that
the
our
fiscal year of
stockholders
2020.
vote Each of the director nominees.
Tesla's
And for
board
each of those
has
proposals.
recommended that our stockholders vote for each of the director
In
nominees
addition, we have also
and for
received
each of those
4
proposals.
stockholder proposals, as described in the proxy statement.
In addition, we have also
I would like to
received
remind our
4
stockholders
stockholder
that Tesla's
proposals,
board has prepared
as
a statement
described in the proxy
opposition
statement.
to each of these proposals.
I would like to remind our
which appear in the
stockholders that
proxy.
Tesla's board has prepared a statement in opposition to
First
each of these
stockholder
proposals,
proposal
which
is an
appear in the
advisory
proxy.
vote regarding paid advertising.
The first
Our
stockholder
board has
proposal
recommended that
is
our
an advisory
stockholders
vote regarding
against
paid
this stockholder
advertising.
proposal.
Our board has recommended
stockholder
that our
proposal
stockholders
comes
vote
to us from
against
James
this stockholder
Danforth.
proposal.
However, Mr.
This stockholder
Danforth has
proposal
notified us
comes to us
that
from
neither he
James
nor his
Danforth.
representative will be presenting the proposal
However,
to me
Mr.
today.
Danforth has notified us
That's
that
ridiculous.
neither
that
he
some
nor
shareholder
his
thinks they
representative
can
will be presenting the
decide
proposal at the
when
meeting
and how
today.
Tesla should
It's an
advertise.
advisory
Come on.
So we will
vote regarding
continue.
simple
If you
majority
don't trust the
voting.
company, don't
The
invest.
second
in
stockholder proposal
Our board
is an advisory vote
has
regarding
recommended
simple
that our
majority
stockholders
voting
vote
in our
against
governing
this
documents.
stockholder proposal.
And
Our
I am a
board
shareholder.
has recommended that our stockholders vote
From James
against
McRitchie,
this stockholder
Who is on the
proposal.
line to present the proposal today?
The proposal comes
Mr. McRitchie,
from James McRitchie,
I would like to invite
who
you
is
now
on the line to present the
You will have
proposal
3 minutes.
today.
Mr. McRitchie, I would like to invite you now to present. You'll have 3 minutes.
Thank the board for holding such an innovative hybrid meeting during these difficult times.
I'd like to thank the board for holding such an innovative hybrid meeting during these difficult times. Proposal number 5 basically asks for a majority voting standard to amend bylaws. I first introduced a proposal on this subject at the 2014 Tesla meeting. Supermajority provisions are generally used to entrench incumbent directors and managers. Academic research finds that reducing such devices is associated with higher returns. The board's opposition statement argues they tried to adopt a majority standard last year, but shareholders rejected it. However, 99.6% of shares voted for the proposal. Only 0.4% voted against it. The problem was that a little more than 35% of shares went unvoted. The vast majority of retail shareholders often don't bother to vote. Since only 65% of shares were voted, we didn't achieve the 66.67% necessary to overturn the current supermajority bylaw. It appears the proposal failed primarily for 3 reasons. 1, the board put forth less than robust arguments in favor. 2, they added confusion with another proposal to reclassify the board not into a single class, that's the norm, but into 2 classes, elected in alternating years. 3rd, the board also failed to make a substantial effort to solicit votes in favor. Also, please consider this proposal in context with other poor corporate governance provisions at Tesla. First, shareholders can only remove directors for cost. What that basically means is the director has to be caught in criminal activity for shareholders to remove. Second, because the board is divided into 3 classes, shareholders can only hold individual directors accountable every 3 years. And third, shareholders cannot call special meetings, nor can act by written consent. I hope you will agree. Corporations should not be democratic-free zones. Vote for proposal number 5 so that 33% of shares cannot overrule the wishes of 67%.
We'll now move on to
Thank you.
third stockholder proposal.
Thank you, Mr. McRitchie. We'll now move on to our third stockholder proposal, which is an advisory vote regarding reporting on employee arbitrations. Our board has recommended that our stockholders vote against this stockholder proposal. This proposal comes from NIA Impact Capital, whose representative, Kelly Hall, is on the line to present the proposal today. Ms. Hall, I'd like to invite you to go ahead and present. You'll have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Dr. Kristen Hull, and I'm the founder and CEO
Ms. Hall does not
of
have a
NIA
good
Impact
connection.
Capital. I formally move Proposal 6. This resolution requests that Tesla's Board of Directors oversee the preparation of a report on the impact of the use of mandatory arbitration on Tesla's employees and on its workplace culture. The report will evaluate the association of Tesla's current use of arbitration with the prevalence of both harassment and discrimination in its workplace, and on employees' ability to seek redress should harassment or discrimination occur.
Sounds like
This
someone's
proposal
stumbling around
speaks
in
to the
a room.
widespread experience of discrimination in the workplace by Black, Latinx, and female employees, despite this discrimination being unlawful under the Civil Rights Act of
This is
1964.
not our feed.
Tesla has
This
faced a
is
number
that's
of
coming from
serious
Tesla.
allegations of racism and sexism at its Buffalo and Fremont plants. Companies that allow bias, discrimination, and harassment in their workplaces are at risk
That
for
is interesting that they're
unnecessary
all
legal,
in
brand, financial, and human capital issues.
Yeah, a neat way to
Support for this
stay
resolution is
separate
warranted
and
for
get
the
still
following 5 reasons.
Yeah.
1. Research shows that companies benefit from diverse and inclusive workplaces.
So it's really too bad that they
Corporate
combine
policies that
Shareholder
allow harassment and
Battery Day. I
discrimination
understand
risk
that
investors'
it's because
capital.
COVID caused
3.
things to get pushed out.
The use
and
of arbitration
stacking up
exposes
really
investors to an unknown level of
But
risk.
if you're here to hear about the batteries,
broad
then,
concerns
you're
exist
probably
with respect to
interested
fair
in
treatment in
all
Tesla
these
workplace.
investor
Tesla
proposals,
employees have
governance,
alleged
and other things.
harassment and discriminations on the basis of both race and gender. Tesla, a company investors love for its innovation, leadership, and wise moat, is increasingly lagging behind its peers in its disclosure related to workplace diversity, equity, and inclusion. Unlike the forward thinking and innovation in its extraordinary product line, Tesla has not shown proactive leadership in building a positive company culture or in addressing concerns about its workplace practices. In these material issues, Tesla lags behind its technology and automotive competitors.
Haven't they got all
The use of arbitration limits employees' remedies for wrongdoing, precludes employees from suing in court,
What's that?
and often keeps underlying facts, misconduct, or case outcomes secret, therefore preventing employees from learning about and
That
acting
was one
on
of the
shared
rumors too.
concerns.
One of
Simply
the Model
stated,
3 updates
arbitration
was a
allows
new
bad
steering
corporate
wheel.
behavior
We don't know the
that
details
bias,
of what the steering
harassment,
wheel
and
is or what the
discrimination
change
continue,
is, but that
hidden
was
from
one of the
employees
7
and
rumors of
investors.
things that were changing on the
To
Model 3.
maintain Tesla's wide moat, it is essential that the board seriously assess the implications of the use of arbitration and that Tesla begin to take seriously the need to ensure a fair, equitable, positive, and inclusive workplace.
Our fourth and final
Thank you.
proposal is an advisory vote
Thank you, Ms. Hall.
regarding reporting on
Our
human
fourth and
rights.
final proposal
Our board
is an
has
advisory
recommended
vote
that stockholders
regarding
vote against
reporting
this
on human
proposal.
rights. Our
This
board
proposal
has
comes
recommended
to us from the
that
Sisters
stockholders
of
vote
Good Shepherd.
against this proposal.
knowing that they've already voted.
This proposal comes to us from the Sisters of Good Shepherd, New York Province, whose representative, Terrence
I would like
Collingsworth,
to invite you to speak
is
now.
on the line
You
to
have 3
present
minutes for
today.
the proposal.
Mr. Collingsworth, I would like to invite you to speak now.
I'm Terry
You have 3 minutes for your proposal.
Executive Director of the International Rights Advocate.
Thank you. I'm Terry Collingsworth, Executive Director of the International Rights Advocate. I'm here representing the Sisters of Good Shepherd, New York Province, to present Item 7 on human rights disclosure, which calls upon Tesla to issue a report to describe board oversight of human rights and its human rights due diligence process, including systems to provide meaningful remedies when human rights impacts occur. Tesla faces serious human rights issues, and failure to establish a culture of respect for human rights will expose Tesla to new liability issues and significant reputational injury, all of which will have a material impact on the company and its shareholders. The need to set a new course for human rights compliance at Tesla is glaring. Here are 5 examples of human rights violations occurring now in Tesla's operations. Racism, sexual harassment, and disregard for human safety and dignity harm workers at the Gigafactory 2 in Buffalo, New York every single day, and those workers urge you to remember their experiences in your vote. Tesla is experiencing serious labor relations issues at its production facilities and is actively discouraging union organizing. Workers are being exposed to COVID-19 and then are facing retaliation when they ask for greater protections. There are numerous worker health and safety violations as well as wage and hour issues. And finally, there are serious, even deadly human rights violations occurring in Tesla's global supply chains. On this last issue, my organization brought the pending suit against Tesla for using cobalt mined in the Democratic Republic of Congo by young children. I personally met young boys who lost limbs or were paralyzed in cobalt tunnel collapses. Tesla sources cobalt from these very mines, and its claim to have, quote, zero tolerance for child labor in its supplier code of conduct is simply not true. Tesla is not only tolerating child labor in its cobalt supply chain, it is tolerating the death and maiming of young child minors. This demonstrates why the company must circle back and begin a process to report on its treatment of human rights issues as requested in this proposal. I think consumers will have zero tolerance for a company that is exposed as being indifferent to killing and maiming child minors. We are hopeful that Tesla's innovative spirit can be brought to bear on making human rights a priority at the company. For example, if Elon Musk cared about implementing a zero-tolerance child labor policy, instead of having a useless paper policy, Tesla could employ satellites or drones at every mine it sources from to actually monitor child labor. I encourage all Tesla shareholders to vote for Item 7, Human Rights Disclosure. Thank you for your attention.
At this time, I'd like to thank our stockholders
Thank you, Mr.
for all their
Collinsworth.
active participation in today's meeting.
At this time, I'd like to thank our stockholders for all of their active participation in today's meeting and for those who just presented on the line. I'd also like to read some of the comments that have been submitted by you over the course of the meeting. First comment comes from Michael Overbaugh. I take great pride in the fact that we haven't had to stoop to the level of what advertising represents to get where we are today. I'd hate to give in to that kind of temptation now when we're so close to becoming a household name that's based solely on our merit alone. But if assets do end up having to be set aside for marketing, I'd like to suggest that rather than shoving ads down the customers' throats, we establish some sort of hardcore nationwide campaign and event with the goal of getting as many people as possible behind the wheel of a Tesla for an introduction drive. It's well known how far just doing that alone goes to converting people into fans. A line I recently ran across says, "You can talk all about the specs as much as you want, but when it comes to buying a car, what ultimately puts butts in seats is the feeling that the vehicle gives you." By demonstrating that Tesla clearly has both the specs and the feeling, what more needs saying?
Tesla alone.
On behalf of the Clean Air Now Coalition of
Our second comment comes from the United Steelworkers on behalf of the Clean Air Now Coalition of Western New York by Sabrina Liu. Proposal, and it reads as follows. Proposals 6 and 7, up for vote this year, are the results of widespread concern about mistreatment of Tesla workers at U.S. factories and across the supply chain. It is clear that Tesla is not interested in addressing the harm they have caused to their workers, as their board is advising shareholders to vote against the proposal. We're urging all shareholders to vote in favor of Proposals 6 and 7. And on behalf of our workers at the United Steelworkers here in Western New York, and for Tesla employees across the country and across the global supply chain, while this doesn't repair the harm that's already been caused to countless employees, nor repair harm to children and communities forced into slave labor in the DRC, they represent steps towards a more just workplace at Tesla.
Thank you all for your participation in the comments.
This concludes all of the comments. Thank you all for your participation in the comments. We'll now have a final opportunity for any of you to submit proxies in order for them to be counted. So I'll pause and wait for a moment for you to do that.
It's interesting that these proposals are read, but some people have already voted before the proposal has been read aloud.
How does that make you feel as somebody who's reading these, making these arguments? I mean, like they've already been voted for or against before they've even put their case.
I declare that the polls are now closed. So based on the proxies,
I declare that the polls are now closed.
I'd like to announce on a preliminary basis.
So based on the proxies that we have previously received, I'd like to announce on a preliminary basis that our stockholders have approved the recommendations of Tesla's board on all agenda items other than the stockholder proposal for an advisory vote regarding simple majority voting in our governing documents. After the final tabulation is completed, we'll formally announce the results of the voting by filing a Form 8K with the SEC within 4 business days of today. This now concludes the official business of Tesla's 2020 Annual Stockholders Meeting, which is now adjourned. Next, we will have a company update and a year in review presented by Elon, and then we will start our Battery Day event. During the course of those following sessions, we may discuss our business outlook and make forward-looking statements. Such statements are predictions based on our current expectations, Actual events or results could materially differ due to a number of risks and uncertainties, including those disclosed in our most recent 10Q filed with the SEC.
They shouldn't be relied on after
These
today,
forward-looking statements
and we
represent our
disclaim
views as
any
of today.
obligation to update them after today
They
as
shouldn't be relied on after today, and we disclaim any obligation to update them after today as well.
Yeah, Hockey Day makes
and year in review.
a point about
And it's my
buying
pleasure.
cobalt.
We will now
from
continue with the company
Canada.
update
Co-founder and CEO.
and year in review.
In Cobalt,
Mr. Elon
Ontario.
And it's my pleasure to introduce Tesla co-founder and
It's actually a
CEO,
city name.
Mr. Elon Musk.
Horn applause. Oh, no leather jacket today.
Well, I mean, this is definitely
guys
a
have
new
this,
approach.
Hey, everyone.
The Tesla
T-shirt.
drive-in theater,
Well,
basically.
I mean, this is definitely a new approach.
It's good to see
We got
everyone.
the Tesla
It's a little
drive-in
hard to read the room.
movie theater, basically.
With everyone being in
It's good to see everyone. It's a little hard to read the room with everyone being in cars, but it's the only way we can do it. So hopefully it's cool, and hopefully you can hear me. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
I think it's been
All right, great.
an incredible year. And
All right. Well, thanks for coming.
I'd like to thank you for your support.
I think it's been an incredible year, and I'd like to thank you for your support through
put their
tough times, good times. It's been great. Really appreciate everyone who's put their hard-earned money into Tesla, and I think it's worked out pretty well. This has been a good year, and I think there's many good years to come. So I'll go through the shareholder presentation, I think, fairly quickly, because the sort of real main event here is Battery Day. So really I'm just going through a recap of what's happened over the past year or so.
In terms of our ability to create a factory,
I think starting from in terms of our ability to create a factory, huge kudos to the Tesla Shanghai team for being able to go from literally a dirt pile to volume production in 15 months. It's like, damn.
So,
yeah.
And I think something that's quite noteworthy here is Tesla is the only foreign manufacturer to have
and I think something that's really quite noteworthy here is Tesla is the only foreign manufacturer to have a 100% owned factory in China. So this is often not well understood or not appreciated, but to have the only 100% owned foreign factory in China is a really big deal.
We really wouldn't have the results.
And it's paying huge dividends here. So we really wouldn't have the results that we have had this year without the great efforts of the Tesla China team. So I'm super appreciative of that. And we'll see the Shanghai factory continue to scale quite a bit from where it is right now. I think we really could expect that to be, over time, a factory that produces over 1 million vehicles a year.
Way more than they suggested for that
Yeah.
factory.
It's cool.
So we also reached in the past year volume production of the Model Y.
So
And this was the smoothest
let's see. So we also reached in the past year volume production of the Model Y, and this was the smoothest launch that we've ever had. So I think we're definitely getting better at new vehicle launches and building factories and scaling production. As you've heard me say before, it's the hardest thing is scaling production, especially of a new technology. It's insanely difficult. Making a prototype is relatively easy. And if I think like what is the real achievement of Tesla in sort of car company terms, it's like it wasn't making sort of exciting prototypes. It was that Tesla was really the first company in about a century in the U.S., the first U.S. company in the U.S. to reach volume production and be sustainably profitable. Like the crazy thing is this has really not happened in 100 years. That's the actual super hard part. And we now have 4 vehicles in volume production, S3XY. So also the toughest joke I think maybe ever. It was a very difficult joke to make. So we also introduced the lowest cost solar in the U.S. It's only $1.49 a watt, and we really just simplified the whole chain of the whole value chain. So reduced sales and advertising, got rid of a bunch of unnecessary costs, and really are just relying upon the fact that it's just the lowest cost, most efficient solar in the U.S., providing both retrofit and the solar glass roof, which I think is a really great product, a hard product to make work, but it will be a major product line in the future.
Of gap profitability, which was very difficult.
And we also got 4 consecutive quarters of gap profitability, which was very difficult. So. And certainly a testament to the hard work of people at Tesla. I mean, to do this in extremely difficult times against a wide range of adverse circumstances was insanely hard, but we got it done. So, and I think the future is looking like I think very promising from sort of an annual profitability standpoint. So. In order to achieve,
you really need economies of
in order
scale,
to sort of
and you need ideally the best technology.
do well financially, you really need economies of scale, and you need ideally the best technology. And I think we had the best technology for a while, but now we are also achieving economies of scale. So, and we're also rapidly improving autonomy, which is a massive value add to each car. So, I think the value of Tesla is going to be like total, just on the vehicle side, total vehicles produced times the value of autonomy. That's a way to think about the future value of Tesla.
This is really important for growth.
We also have consistent free cash flow generation. This is really important for growth. And a key element here is tightening up the time from when a car is ordered to when it is built and delivered. So for a company that's growing rapidly, it's extremely important to tighten the supply chain and to have from when parts arrive, put it into a car very quickly and deliver the car very quickly to the customer. And if you can do that inside the sort of your kind of payables timeline, then the faster you grow, the more cash you have. Or conversely, if you're unable to do it within your payables timeline, the faster you grow, the less money you will have, which is obviously bad for capital-intensive situation. So just tightening up and having the parts move very quickly to the factory, put it in a car, get it to a customer, makes a massive difference to cash flow generation. And I mean, that's why it's extremely important to have a factory in each continent. Because if you don't at least have a factory in the continent, it is impossible to achieve this. So having a factory in China that's able to serve China, and then soon many other countries in the region will be key to us tightening that total sort of chain of cash flow and getting essentially the faster we grow, the more cash. This is really important. That's also why it's important to have Giga Berlin complete, because then we'll have a factory in China, a factory in the U.S., and soon a second factory in the U.S. in Austin, and a factory in Europe.
Even if we had
and I mean, even if for Giga Texas in Austin, even if we had exactly the same costs as in California, it would still be advantageous to do it there because it's roughly 2/3 of the way across the U.S. So in terms of delivering cars to the central U.S. and to the East Coast, it's just faster, costs less, and it fundamentally improves our economics. So I think this is also maybe something that's not fully appreciated of just how important it is to have a factory at least on the continent or reasonably close to where the end customers is, so you can tighten that whole chain.
While the rest of industry has gone down,
industry performance. While the rest of industry has gone down, Tesla has gone up. I think this speaks to. Thanks.
Are they beefy, Kevin?
Buying our product
and so I'd like to thank all the customers for taking a chance on Tesla and buying our product, and really hope you're enjoying it. This is really, our sales, as Al was saying, really grow by word of mouth. So this is really, I think, a very pure, it's very pure in the sense that it's like, it's growing on the basis of existing owners recommending it to new customers. This is really, I think, a good way to grow.
2019 we had 50% growth.
So, and then in 2019 we had 50% growth, and I think we'll do really pretty well in 2020. probably somewhere between 30 to 40% growth, despite a lot of very difficult circumstances. I mean, there's so many, pandemic wildfires. Is like a whole bunch of difficult production issues. But thanks to the hard work of the Tesla team and a lot of innovative approaches to overcoming issues, we're able to still see significant growth in one of the most difficult, in fact, I'd say probably the most difficult year of Tesla's existence.
Yeah, Tesla, we try very hard.
And we also published our extended impact report. Tesla, we try very hard to do the right thing. If the right thing does not happen, it's just because we maybe made a mistake or weren't aware of it. But we always try to do the right thing to the best of our ability. And then we published the extended impact report to show, just a sort of a self-examination of, okay, what are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? What can we do better in the future? We're definitely trying to accomplish the most good, and so, if we occasionally make a mistake, we work quickly to fix it and do the right thing.
Emissions in the U.S.
So it's worth looking at like the average life cycle emissions in the U.S. And just how much better a Tesla is than or an electric car than any other than any kind of gasoline car. And what we'll talk about in the battery day is also just how much the grids around the world and actually especially in the U.S. are greening. It's actually much faster than I think people realize. The U.S. is moving towards sustainable energy, and so as we move more and more to sustainable energy, then effectively you end up building the solar factories and the car factories themselves with solar. Over time you do, or with sustainable energy. Over time you'll even mine with sustainable energy, and eventually it will get to an effective emissions of zero.
Yep.
So that's where things will end up.
We also have safety for our design. The Tesla cars are the safest cars ever designed.
So we also have safety at the core of our design. The Tesla cars are the safest cars ever designed. We have the lowest probability of injury of any cars ever tested by the U.S. government, and that's just passive safety. When you add active safety into that, it's even better. So it's really if safety is important to you, which obviously it is. The safest car you could drive is a Tesla. So, I think people some people aren't aware of this, but it's really safety is paramount. It is actually the number one design objective when we build a Tesla is safety.
Sort of accidents per.
Our factories are also becoming safer, and if you look at the sort of accidents per total vehicle made, it's dramatically better than in the past, and it's already better than industry average, and we're confident we can get it to the best in the auto industry.
And you can see it in the
autopilot functionality continues to improve.
It's just getting better.
And you can see it in the safety report that we publish every quarter. It's just getting better and better. The U.S. average for collisions is at roughly 2.1 per million miles, and with autopilot engaged, it's 0.3. I mean, this is a profound difference. It really massive, and this will get even better. So we're confident that over time we can get the probability of an accident, especially the probability of injury, to 10 times better than the industry average, like an order of magnitude better. So that's just a lot of lives saved and a lot of injuries avoided. So that's a huge priority for us.
It's kind of hard for people to judge the
progress
of
on the autopilot front. I think it's kind of hard for people to judge the progress of autopilot. Like I'm driving. As a matter of course, I've always done this. I drive the bleeding edge alpha build of autopilot, and so I sort of have insight into what is going on.
So we're improving, but
previously, about a couple of years ago, we were kind of stuck in a local maximum. So we're improving, but like the improvements kind of started tailing off and just not getting where they needed to be. I call this case still getting trapped in a local maximum. And so we had to do a fundamental rewrite of the entire autopilot software stack, and all of the labeling software as well. So we're now
This is hugely
labeling
different from
in 3D
previously we were
video.
labeling
So
essentially a bunch of
this is hugely different from
single images
previously where we were
from the 8
labeling
cameras, and they would be
essentially
labeled,
a bunch of
at different times by different
single
people.
images
And some of the
from the 8
labels
cameras, and they would be
because we
labeled
can't tell what it is you're
at different
labeling.
times by different people.
So
And some of the labels,
it
you
basically
you
made it
literally
sort of
can't
in some cases
tell what it is
impossible
you're
to
labeling.
label, and the labels had
So
a lot of errors. Now,
it basically made
with our
it
new
sort of in some
labeling
cases
tools,
impossible to
we
label,
in
and the
video,
labels
so we
had
actually
a lot of
label
errors.
entire
Now,
video segments,
with our new labeling
and the
tools,
system,
we
so
label
you
it
get the
in
basically
video. So
surround
we actually
video,
label entire video segments,
thing to label,
and the system. So you get basically a
with
surround
surround
video
and time. So it's
thing
now-
to
it's now
label,
taking
and
all cameras simultaneously,
with the
and
surround video
looking at how
and with
the images
time. So
change over
it's now
time,
taking all
and labeling
all
that.
cameras simultaneously,
and
and looking at how the images change over time, and labeling that. And then the sophistication of the neural nets in the car and the overall logic in the car has improved dramatically. I think we'll hopefully release a private beta of Autopilot, of the full self-driving version of Autopilot, in I think a month or so, and then people will really understand just the magnitude of the change. It's profound.
Anyway, so you'll see it's just like a hell of a step change.
Yeah.
And because we had to rewrite everything.
Anyway, so you'll see it's just like a hell of a step change. But because we had to rewrite everything, labeling software, the just entire code base, it took us quite a while, and the sort of new sort of I call it like 4D in the sense that it's 3 dimensions plus time.
You'll see what it's like.
It's just taken us a while to rewrite everything, and so you'll see what it's like. It's amazing. Yeah, it's clearly going to work.
Obviously.
Also manufacturing. Tesla core competencies. We've got engineering, obviously. But also manufacturing. I think manufacturing is underappreciated in general.
The difficulty of designing the machine that makes the machine is vastly harder than the machine itself.
The difficulty of designing the machine that makes the machine is vastly harder than the machine itself. So, designing, like making a Model 3 or Model Y or Cybertruck prototype is really quite trivial compared to designing the factory that makes it. Especially if it's new technology and you want to use new manufacturing methods, it's just at least 10 to 100 times harder to do the factory than the prototype. And that's why you see a lot of companies out there or startups, they'll bring out a prototype, but they just can't get it over the hump for manufacturing. Because manufacturing of new technology especially is the hardest thing by far.
At best 10% of the difficulty.
Like basically the prototype is somewhere at best 10% of the difficulty and probably closer to 1%. And then software. Tesla is both a hardware and a software company. So
think of our car as kind of like a laptop on wheels.
a huge percentage of our engineers are actually software engineers.
So software is incredibly
And
important.
you can think of our
And
car
so
as
not
kind of like a
just
laptop
actually,
on
not
wheels.
just in the car, but also in the
So software is
factory.
incredibly important.
So
And so not just actually, not just in the car, but also in the factory. So the factory software is extremely important. Just software in general. These are fundamental. These are the 3 critical areas that are needed to make for an awesome company.
So we have.
Yeah.
3 new factories incremental.
So we have.
Well, we have one already.
Now we'll soon have 3 new factories incremental on. Well, we have one already on 3 different continents. Shanghai. We're expanding in Shanghai with the second phase. Berlin is making rapid progress, and Texas is making even faster progress. So.
With this factory, what we're trying to do is also improve the manufacturing technology. So. It's,
with each factory, what we're trying to do is also improve the manufacturing technology. So it's in some cases like the Model Y made in Berlin might look the same, but it actually is made in a much more efficient way. And we'll talk about that later in the battery presentation. Yeah, launch Megapack. It's a 3 megawatt-hours all-in-one energy storage solution. So it's been great overall.
And I think that's basically it.
Yeah.
All
right. And I think that's basically it. Right. All right. Thank you.
Well, thanks everyone for coming, and we'll be back in a little bit to go through the battery stuff.
Well, thanks everyone for coming, and we'll be back in a little bit to go through the battery stuff. And there's a little bit more, in addition to the battery stuff, we got a few extras as well. So I think you'll really like what we have to say on batteries. The battery stuff we're going to talk about is truly revolutionary and essential to Tesla's goal. The fundamental good of Tesla. It's like if you look back in history and say what good did Tesla do? The good will be to by how many years did we accelerate sustainable energy? That's like the true metric of success. It matters if sustainable energy happens faster or slower, and so that's really like how I think about Tesla and how we should sort of assess our progress. By how many years did we accelerate sustainable energy? And what we're going to talk about with batteries and a few other things will really explain how we're going to make a step change improvement in the acceleration of sustainable energy.
Make everyone move to another drive-in for the battery presentation.
But they can handle the crazy questions while everybody shuffles.
Hi, folks. That was great. We're going to take a short break before we begin the Battery Day event. So stay tuned.
Hi, folks. That was great. We're going to take a short break before we begin the Battery Day event. So stay tuned. If you're local and here in the audience today, you can feel free to get out of the cars and stretch your legs. But try to stay near the cars because we're going to begin promptly in a little bit. See you soon.
Patrick, you might be muted.
You're very quiet. I do hear you.
Yeah.
That's weird. It's like your volume got turned all the way down. Maybe the software volume got turned down in the software. Probably the Skype.
Yeah, the dog that we heard barking, I do not believe was any of us three.
Definitely wasn't me.
My dog was not barking. So.
He was usually louder.
So that was a dog heckling Elon from the side of the stage, I'm sure.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're much better
now.
There you go. Was it Skype or software?
Weird.
Oh, was it software?
I just it was Skype.
Okay.
And I just changed it from default to the Yeti.
Oh, it changed mics entirely. Okay. So you're big into the stocks. Tell us what you think about what we saw so far.
Oh, I was actually surprised to see that even one of the proposals was selected, and it's the one that changes the supermajority versus a simple majority. So it'll be interesting to see if that makes it more likely for shareholder proposals to be accepted in the future. And I do personal investing just for myself. It's not like I run some hedge fund or something. So I'm generally opposed to these activist investors, and I invest in a company that's doing what I think is the right thing, and I don't invest so I can go in and say, hey, you should do what I think is right. If I wanted to do that, I would just start my own business and do it my way.
Or buy it. Completely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I like it so much I bought the company. Yeah. I don't think that's quite an option for me. But still, yeah. I'm opposed to activist investors in general. So the governance of the company are the ones that are there that have got the success that they've seen so far to date. So why would you not want to let them continue to make the good decisions that brought you to want to invest in that company in the first place?
Exactly.
So, I usually don't vote, but when I do, it's almost always for what the board recommends. Because, like I said, those are the people I've entrusted, and so I wouldn't want to cut options off for them. Like that one about they would have to do advertising.
Yeah.
No, they'll do advertising when they need to do advertising based on their sales data, and if they have cars that are starting to have 60 or 90 days of being available for sale and they're not moving, then they'll start doing something about it.
Make too many
but to force them to spend money on it now is sort of ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any car in the audience that's not a Model Y or Model 3?
I wonder if that's the only
Give a Model X, get out.
To the...
Yeah, like are these investor cars, or are these cars that Tesla borrowed for the day and said, if you want to attend the meeting, you have to sit in one of these cars?
I hope not, because what if one of them's got the stuff and you get your car delivered?
Because if they are investors' cars in Southern California, I would think there'd be a Roadster or two.
Right.
Yeah, I think you're right. Tesla must have provided these because a lot of investors are going to be flying in and other things.
Some of them are really customized.
And this, by setting them up ahead of time, they can just say, okay, you're assigned to car number C5, and go. Here's your fob. Go have a seat or whatever how they're doing it.
Okay. Yeah.
And it looks like there's about maybe 6 or 7 aside per half, and it looks deep. Maybe 10 deep.
Yeah.
So that would be maybe 70 cars.
Yeah, none of them are parked crooked, so they might be Tesla cars, because we know a lot of Tesla owners can't park straight. Just was looking at the wheels.
Yeah.
The scratches on my wheel were all done at the service center. The last one was when they were letting the air out of my tires right before it got cold. They scratched the valve stem. I'm like, how do you scratch that? And then the only other blemish on my wheel is a rock chip. I don't know how you get a rock chip while rolling down the road. 12 deep, Hockey Day says. All right, yeah, you were close.
Yes. Yeah.
You said 10. He counted 12.
So that'd be 7 per side, 12 deep, 14 times 12. What's that? 120 something?
Sounds right.
I think it's wider than that.
Those are just what we see.
You think it's wider than 14 cars?
Yeah, I think it's 20. Doing jumping jacks.
So, if they do end up later on doing the advertising, I did like that person who proposed that if they did it, they do it smart, and that I didn't expect anything less of them for that. Yeah.
Right.
And
yeah, that's definitely so. I'm with the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association, and we do events. And if you're just sitting at a table talking to people about it, you can only do that for so long, and they'll argue this or that. But you say, okay, let's go for a ride, and then people make emotional decisions and then use their rational brain to justify the decision. So arguing with their rationale is not going to get you anywhere because they already have this false premise of it's slow or whatever. And so just take them for a ride. Then their premise changes, and then that rational brain starts talking about, wow, I really got to get one of these. These are great. I can spend less on fuel. I can pollute less. And all those things support that emotional decision. So yeah, get the butt in the seat and give them a fun ride, and you're 90% of the way there.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I do agree that they could use more diversity, but I don't know where these people were getting this idea of the Congo from. I mean, were they just parroting some fringe news conspiracy theory site that they were visiting, or like none of them provided any that I could see?
Right.
Anything to
if you go, there's a lot of horrible human rights violations related to cobalt mining.
Which is true.
And Tesla uses cobalt. Therefore, they must be horrible. You just made a big leap in the middle. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And of course, the story over the past 2 years has been that Tesla has been reducing cobalt as well in the battery formula.
Right.
But if Tesla doesn't know, buy your cobalt for Cobalt Ontario.
There you go.
You will eliminate that problem.
Canada doesn't play that child labor stuff.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what actually would be really nice, is if these regions had a stable democratic government that didn't allow these horrible violations to occur in their society. That sounds like a better solution for everybody involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hockaday says all of them use cobalt, exactly. I mean, we use steel, we use other lithium ion.
Right. Yeah. That was one of the things at some of these where I'm talking to the public. They're like, oh, you pollute just as much as a gas car because you're using electricity, and that's coal. And you have to gauge how much you want to engage with somebody like that.
Yeah.
And and you can do the rational, okay, look, the Union of Concerned Scientists have done analysis on all of the major grids throughout America, looking at how much coal is used in them. And if you're really concerned about coal use, does that mean that you are buying wind or have solar on your house so that your refrigerator's not using coal? No, of course you're not. Yeah, because you're just trying to throw rocks at me.
Yeah.
And so the people who drive electric vehicles are far more likely to be the ones using renewable energy, and are far more likely to be the type of person that is advocating for the reduction of fossil fuels in our economy altogether. So yeah, that's just
Ripped out all the gas I
not
could
the,
out of
not
my
the
house.
reality of it at all.
And
You've got what?
Ripped all the gas I could out of my house.
And even when the coal is gone, Ontario's been coal free for about 3 years now,
Nice.
maybe 3.5. And we had an event about 2.5 years ago where someone came up and argued that we were using coal, and it's like, they're just uninformed.
Yeah.
Coal had
Yeah.
stopped for over a year at that point, but it didn't stop them from pulling the coal argument.
I did
Yeah,
like
update
how
your
Elon
priors,
addressed
buddy.
that in this presentation too. Do any of them use LED
Yeah,
bulbs in their house? Exactly.
So yeah, there were a lot of things in this that I really liked. Robin Denholm mentioned how Tesla takes a long-term view on things.
Do you know
There are
that
so
too
many
often
companies.
because of the quarter-to-quarter
Yeah,
garbage?
exactly. They have quarterly numbers. They have to make them, or Wall Street punishes them, and then they can't make the dividend payments that their long-term investors expect. And Tesla takes a completely different view. When they were showing their profitability, I'm like, wow, that's really not the goal that I have for Tesla is profitability. I want them to continue to grow. I don't want them to say, oh, we're not going to do this because we're going to have to wait another quarter to fund it. If they're still, I want hyper growth from them. I'd like to still, and well, we're seeing it. I mean, they're building their factories. They're putting new product roadmap out there. So they're doing all of that. And I would hate for that to ever get slowed down because they're worried about making some profitability quarter. So I kind of, when the S&P 500, they haven't been included yet. And I'm like, great, good. So that just allows them the freedom to do what they need to do, whether or not it meets that criteria.
Looks like they might be being shepherded back to their cars.
Hmm.
Turn this back up. Oh, I've got the hardware. This is my audio mixer interface, and I've got the mixing board to go with it. And this computer that we're on has got a HDMI input, so we're 1,000 times better than the last time we did this, and we are going to be on point next time, I promise.
Awesome.
Barring any hardware failures.
Awesome.
And this was the box.
Yeah, I saw a lot of
the
people
device
are
that was in the
live
box
streaming
is
this
in a moving
time.
box. You saw what?
There's a lot of people live streaming this event now. We've done them in the past, and more people are jumping on this, which is really too bad because this was our thing.
Exactly. Yeah, but we're going to do it better.
Yeah, cool.
All right, so it looks like there are very few people walking around. I was going to go to the restroom, but now there's no time. Oof, you can see the sky.
I don't know there. Yeah, I don't know what this.
There's no audio accompanying it.
Yeah, I wonder if this is just some of the fires.
That's exactly what it looks like. Unless it's Cyberpunk is from what's the Replicants?
Some dystopian future, or
Yeah, what's the movie
San
with the
Francisco
Replicants?
right now.
I'm calling it
Blade
blank.
Runner. Blade Runner.
Blade Runner.
2049.
Yes.
Or San Francisco 2020.
Yes.
Drew Baglioni.
Okay, so that was Tesla making banging noises.
Hello,
Yep.
everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Sure.
Thanks, Elon.
This is real.
Sure. Thanks, Elon. Oh, hi. I'm Drew Baglino, SVP of Powertrain and Energy Engineering at Tesla. And I'm incredibly excited to talk about what we've been doing at batteries here at Tesla.
Great. So let's see. You got the clicker.
I got the clicker. Yeah.
Okay. Let's
obviously the issues we're facing are very serious.
Obviously the issues we're facing are very serious. With climate change, and we're experiencing these issues on a day-to-day basis. It's incredibly important we accelerate the advent of sustainable energy. Time really matters. This presentation is about accelerating the time to sustainable energy.
The past 5 years were the hottest on record.
So, the past 5 years were the hottest on record.
CO2 ppm.
We have what looks like a wall for CO2 ppm. It's obviously, this time is not like the past. It's really important that we take action. Running this climate experiment is insane. So,
we're going to run out of these fossil especially when it's just a transitory one anyway.
Yes.
We're going to run out of these fossil fuels. Let's just move to the future and not run this experiment any longer.
Yeah.
So anyway,
talk about louder.
You got it.
Okay.
There is a lot of good news, though.
There is a lot of good news, though.
A lot of people may not be aware that wind and solar.
A lot of people may not be aware that wind and solar comprise 75% of new electricity capacity in the U.S. this year. So this is a really major.
The grid is going sustainable.
So
the
grid is going sustainable.
Now it's also
very quickly.
Length of time that power plants last is.
Now it's also worth noting that the length of time that power plants last is on the order of 25 years.
Energy generation was
so
sustainable, it would still take
even if 100% of
convert the grid.
Energy generation was sustainable, it would still take 25 years to convert the grid.
It's also worth noting that in the past 10 years,
and it's also worth noting that in the past 10 years, power production from coal has dropped in half. So it went from 46% of electricity in 2010 to 23% in 2020. So this is a massive improvement. So good things are happening on a lot of levels. We just need to go faster.
We've delivered over 1 million electric vehicles.
So in terms of Tesla's contribution, we've delivered over 1 million electric vehicles, 26 billion electric miles driven, and
17 terawatt hours
many gigawatt hours of stationary batteries, 17 terawatt hours of solar generated. So I think solar is sometimes underweighted at Tesla, but it is a massive part of our future. The three parts of a sustainable energy future are sustainable energy generation, storage, and electric vehicles. So we intend to play a significant role in all three. So to accelerate the transition to sustainable energy, we must produce more EVs. They need to be affordable and a lot more energy storage while building factories faster and with far less investment.
Goal number 1 is a terawatt-hour scale battery production.
Goal number 1 is a terawatt-hour scale battery production. So Tera is the new giga, and a terawatt is 1,000 times more than a gigawatt. So we used to talk in terms of gigawatts. In the future, we'll be talking in terms of terawatt hours. So this is what's needed in order to transition the world to sustainability.
Yeah, and you can see it's we're talking about 100x growth in batteries for electric vehicles to achieve this mission. And we are going to get there. Just a matter of how fast, and our intention is to accelerate.
Yeah, you basically need on the order of roughly 10 terawatt hours a year of battery production to transition the global fleet of vehicles to electric.
And the average vehicle lasts 15 years, so we're talking about 150 terawatt hours, give or take, to transition the whole all vehicles of all types to electric.
Yeah, so it's a lot of batteries, basically.
And then on the grid side, we have a similar. And then on the grid side, 1,600 times we have a similar mountain to climb. 1,600 times growth from today's grid batteries to go 100% renewable on the grid, and to take all of the existing heating fossil fuel uses in homes and businesses 100% electric.
Yeah, and this number I think might grow even more. As the world economy matures and as countries with high populations industrialize, we could see this number be even more. But let's say it's like roughly 20 to 25 terawatt hours per year, sustained for 15 to 25 years to transition the world to renewable.
So today's batteries can't scale
This is a lot.
enough. They're too small.
So today's batteries can't scale fast enough. They're just too small. For Giga Nevada, 150 gigawatt hours per year is like what we probably expect to make out of there. But this is really pretty small in the grand scheme of things. That's only 0.15 terawatt hours.
So we would need 135.
And it costs too much.
Fully built out Nevada gigafactories to achieve. We would need 135 fully built out Nevada gigafactories to achieve 20 terawatt hours a year. It's not scalable enough of a solution. We need a dramatic rethink of the cell manufacturing system to scale as fast as we can and should.
Yeah, and I think we should view this as more than just a question of money. Money is sort of like an ethereal thing, but it's really the amount of effort. You have a certain amount of effort, in terms of people and machines, and depending on how efficient that effort is, for a given amount of effort, you want the most amount of batteries. So it's not just a question of like, well, if we had $2 trillion, tomorrow you could make this. It's not that easy. You actually need to organize a massive number of people, build a lot of machines, build the machines that make the machines, and so it's incredibly important to have that effort yield the most number of batteries.
And then goal two, obviously, we need to make more affordable cars.
So, and then goal two, obviously, we need to make more affordable cars. I think one of the things that troubles me the most is that we don't yet have a truly affordable car, and that is something that we will make in the future. But in order to do that, we've got to get the cost of batteries down. We've got to make, and we've got to be better at manufacturing, and we need to do something about this curve. The curve of the cost per kilowatt hour of batteries is not improving fast enough. So we've given this a lot of thought over many years to say, okay, how can we radically improve the cost per kilowatt hour curve? It's been somewhat flattening out actually in recent years. So
early growth was promising, but you can see we're kind of plateauing. So that's what's motivating us to rethink how cells are produced and designed.
Yeah, exactly. So.
EV market share is growing, but EVs aren't still inaccessible to all.
EV market share is growing, but EVs aren't still inaccessible to all.
It's starting to flatten out a little bit.
And you can see it's, as Drew was saying, it's like starting to flatten out a little bit because the rate of improvement of the affordability of cars is just not fast enough.
Yeah, to make the best cars
that's
in the
why
world, we designed
we got
vehicles
Battery
and
Day.
factories from the ground up. To make the best cars in the world, we design vehicles and factories from the ground up.
We do this for batteries as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now we do this for batteries as well.
Yeah.
It's weird the slides don't show up quite right.
It's weird the slides don't show up quite right. What shows up on the screen is not quite what shows up there.
Oh, they are.
Yeah, I think it's just that.
So let's get started.
No, that one's current, supposed to be.
We have a plan to have.
So let's get started. We have a plan to have the cost per kilowatt hour.
Yeah.
And it's not a plan that rests on a single innovation, some research.
And it's not a plan that rests on a single innovation, some research project that'll never see the light of day. It's a plan that has taken creative engineering and industrialization across every facet of what makes a cell into a battery pack, from raw material to the finished thing.
Step by step.
And we're going to go through that plan with you today, step by step, and build up how we get to these goals and how we accelerate this transition and make our vehicles and our grid batteries more affordable.
Almost every element.
I mean, we basically thought through every element of the battery, well, almost every element. There are a few more elements that we won't get to today, but we will get to in the future.
Yes. So first, before we get too far into it, let's talk about what is in a battery cell. We've got the cap and the can, negative and positive terminals of the cell. When you open that cell, you've got a tab connected to those terminals, what we call the jelly roll, which is the wound electrodes on the inside. You can actually see what this looks like as you unwind it. This is over a meter long in a typical 2170 cell. So it's quite a long winding process. And you can see the tab still there. to explain what's actually going on here, we've identified we've got anode, cathode, separator, positive and negative terminal. Watch what happens as we
discharge the cell. Got lithium moving from anode to cathode.
Discharge the cell.
And then the reverse.
Got lithium moving from anode to cathode.
Anode moving from
and then the reverse.
From cathode to anode.
When we charge the cell, anode moving from lithium moving from cathode to anode across the separator. This is the basic of what makes all lithium-ion batteries, whether they're no matter what the form factor is.
And when we look at what's happened to date, at least in our products, we've moved from.
And when we look at what's happened to date, at least in our products, we've moved from the 18650 form factor to the 2170 form factor through great collaboration with our partners, Panasonic, new partners like LG and CATL, and probably others in the future.
Actually, so a slight note on why is the one called the 18650, although not on the slide, versus the 2170, is that the first two digits refer to the diameter, and the second two digits refer to the length. So that helps explain why are these weird. What's up with these weird numbers? But like nobody could explain to me why there was an extra zero. So like, okay, well, we're deleting the zero that nobody can explain in future form factors. So that's why it's like the 18650 bizarrely, but going forward it's the 2170 because we just got rid of the extra zero because it's pointless.
And this was a evolutionary step going from 1865 to 2170. Bringing 50% more energy into the cell. But when we look to the ideal cell design, if we were to do it ourselves, we need to go beyond just what we're looking at us in front of us and study the full spectrum of options. So as you can see, we kind of swept the key figures of merit, how much we can reduce the cost, and how much vehicle range increases as we change the outer diameter of the cell. We found a sweet spot somewhere around 46 meters. But it's not just about a bigger form factor. Like anybody could make a bigger form factor.
Any fool could make a bigger form factor. We not any fool.
Yeah, exactly. There are problems as you make cells larger. In fact, supercharging and thermals in general become really challenging as you make bigger cells. And this was the challenge that our team set our sights on to overcome. And we did. We came up with this tabless architecture that maybe you've heard about that basically removes the thermal problem from the equation and allows us to go to the absolute lowest cost form factor and the simplest manufacturing process. And this is what we mean when we talk about tabless. It's kind of a beautiful thing.
That's what these T-shirts mean, but it's very esoteric. Like nobody can figure it out.
We basically took the existing foils, laser patterned them, and enabled dozens of connections into the active material through this shingled spiral you can see. With simpler manufacturing, fewer parts, 50 millimeter versus 250 millimeter electrical path length, which is how we get all the thermal benefits.
Yeah, this is important to appreciate. Like basically the distance that electron has to travel, is just much less. So you actually have a shorter path length in a large tabless cell than you have in the smaller cell with tabs. This is a big deal. So even though the cell is bigger, it actually has more power. The power to weight ratio is actually better than the smaller cell with tabs. This is, again, like this is quite hard to do. So it's nobody's done it before. And it really took a tremendous amount of effort within Tesla engineering to figure out how do we make a freaking tabless cell and have it actually work and then connect that to the top cap. And it's there's a whole bunch of things that were
sometimes what's elegant and simple
everything.
is still hard.
Sometimes what's elegant and simple is still hard, and it took us a lot of trials, but we're happy where we ended up.
Yeah, I mean everything's simple in recollection. After you simple, everything it's hard until it's discovered, and then it's simple. So anyway, there's a lot of really cool things going on that enable tablets, and it's really due to a really great engineering team, Drew and the rest of the team have done amazing work in achieving this tabless construction. And it sounds, I think it may sort of sound a bit silly to some people, but this is like, for people that really know cells, this is a massive breakthrough.
For cylindricals to be able to get rid of the tabs dramatically simplifies winding and coating.
Yeah.
and has an awesome thermal and performance benefit.
Yeah, that's just to elaborate on that a bit. It's like when the cell is going through the system, it has to keep stopping where all the tabs are. So you can't do continuous motion production if you have tabs. You have to keep stopping, and then there's a rate at which you can start and stop and accelerate again, and it really slows down the rate of production. And then sometimes you get the tabs wrong, and you also lose a little bit of active area. It's really a huge pain in the ass to have tabs from a production standpoint.
And so when we put it all together and go to our new 80 millimeter length, 4680, we call this new cell design. We get 5 times the energy with 6 times the power and enable 16% range increase, just form factor alone.
Yeah, so when these, yeah, it's pretty great. And just to clarify that when we see these plus 16% or whatever the percentage range increases, these are the amounts due just to that particular innovation.
Yes.
So we'll list a whole bunch of innovations, and then when you add them up, you get a total improvement in energy density and cost. But these numbers are what refer to just this thing.
Yeah, and I want to stress, this is not just a concept or a rendering. We are starting to ramp up manufacturing of these cells at our pilot 10 gigawatt hour production facility just around the corner.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's about half the size of Nevada.
It's a video of some of what's going on in the plant.
Now, I mean, to be clear, it will take about a year to reach the 10 gigawatt hour capacity.
Now, I mean, to be clear, it will take about a year to reach the 10 gigawatt hour capacity. So this is important to appreciate. Like when you build a factory, there's a certain capacity that you design to, and then it takes some period of time to actually achieve that capacity. So I would say it's probably about a year before we get to the 10 gigawatt hour annualized rate with the pilot plant. And this is just a pilot plant. The actual production plants will be more on the order of, maybe 200 gigawatt hours, maybe more over time.
And thank you. But let's stack up everything we just saw at the cell level. So just the cell form factor change enables a 14% dollar per kilowatt hour reduction, just that cell form factor change. And now that you've been teased on this factory, we're going to go on and walk step by step through that factory and discuss a series of innovations there. When thinking about the ideal cell factory, we have inspirations behind us in the paper and bottling industry, where from humble beginnings, over a century of innovation has enabled mass scale, continuous motion, unbelievably low manufacturing cost. And when we think about the lithium-ion industry, which is really only in its 3rd decade of high-volume production, it has so far to go to achieve similar scale and simplicity. And that was the inspiration that we set out to the team as we thought about how to marry cell design and manufacturing in the best possible factory.
Let's talk a little bit about what's in a cell factory. First, there's
and
an electrode
let's talk a little bit about what's in a cell factory. First, there's an electrode process where the active materials are coated into films onto foils. Then those coated foils are wound in the winding process we just talked about, where if you do have tabs, you have to start and stop a lot. Then the jelly roll is assembled into the can, sealed, filled with electrolyte, and then sent to formation, where the cell is charged for the first time, and where the sort of the electrochemistry is set and the quality of the cell is verified. And we set out at every step of this process to try to take that inspiration we just showed and think about how we make those processes fundamentally better and more scalable.
Important processes is where it all begins.
And one of the most important processes is where it all begins, the wet process of the electrode coating.
I'm going to walk through what's in
and
that wet process.
Just to give you all a sense of scale, I'm going to walk through what's in that wet process. You've got mixing where the powders are mixed with either a water or a solvent. Solvents for the cathode. That mix then goes into a large coat and dry oven where the slurry is coated onto the foil, huge ovens, tens of meters long, dried, and that solvent then has to be recovered. You can see the solvent recovery system. And then finally, the coated foil is compressed to the final density. And when you're looking at this, you're like, wow, that's a lot of equipment for one step, especially when you consider that little speck next to the coating oven is a person. This is serious iron involved in making batteries. Wouldn't it be great if we could skip that solvent step, which is one of those dig a ditch and then fill it kind of things where you put the solvent in and then take it out and recycle it, and just go straight to dry mix to coat. And that's what the dry process really is about. And in the most basic form, you can see it here on a bench top. Literally, powder into film. As simple as that.
I mean, it's hard, actually, just to be clear. So, if this was easy, everyone would do it. So it's not like dry coating electrode is actually easy. It's actually very hard to do what appears to be a simple thing. And it's worth noting, like, we did acquire Maxwell as like a little over a year ago, I guess. And it's certainly a good company and everything, but the dry coating they had was like like sort of I would call proof of concept. Since the acquisition, we've actually revved the machine that does the dry coating 4 times. So we're in revision 4 post acquisition of the machine, and there's still a lot of work to do. So I would not say this is like completely in the bag. It's still a lot of work to do, and as you go from like benchtop to lab to pilot to volume production, there are actually major issues that you encounter at every level. It's not like you make something work on your bench and bingo, now you can make a bazillion of it.
Absolutely.
It's insanely difficult to scale up.
But if you do scale it up, what you saw before becomes this.
Yeah.
So you can see the motivation. A 10 times reduction in footprint, a 10 times reduction in energy, and a massive reduction in investment. But as Elon was saying, simple is hard.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to be clear, I would like not say that right now it's just totally working. It's close to working, but it's not, even now at the pilot plant level, it is close to working. Well, it's fair to say it does work, but with not a high yield.
Yeah,
so
we're still ironing out the kinks, but we've made tens of thousands of cells, thousands of kilometers of electrode. I mean, we are on the 4th generation of the equipment, so we've learned a lot along the way. Yeah. I mean, it is super demanding because every atom has its place if you want to deliver the energy density and the cycle life and the supercharging.
Yeah.
But we're confident that we will get there, but it will be a lot of work along the way.
There's a clear path to success, but a ton of work between here and there.
Yep.
So, but this is a really profound improvement. Again, for people that know battery manufacturing, this is gigantic. We'll probably be on machine revision 6 or 7 by the time we do large-scale production. The rate at which the machines are being improved is extremely rapid. Like literally every 3 or 4 months is a new rev.
Yeah, and beyond the electrode, we continue to innovate on every other process step. So let's talk a little bit about assembly, which is next. The key to a high-performing assembly line is accomplishing processes while in motion, continuous motion, and thinking of the line as a highway, max velocity down the highway, no start and stop, no city driving.
Exactly, no stoplights and traffic lights or anything. You want the highway.
I want the highway.
Yeah.
And together with our internal design team that makes this equipment and designs this equipment, we coupled thinking about how to make the best cell with thinking about how to make the best equipment so that we could accomplish the fastest parts per minute rates on all of these tools. And through all of that development, we were able to get to the point where we can implement assembly lines, one line, 20 gigawatt hours, 7 times increase in output per line. And when you're thinking about scalability and pure effort, having one line be 7x the capability is just effort multiplying.
The number of gigafactories that they need.
So,
So the 135 number's dropping.
Yeah, you can sort of think about like the sort of the fundamental physics of a factory or something. Like, I think it's actually quite a lot like the rocket equation, where you've got basically in the rocket equation you've got your exhaust velocity and then the log of the start to end masses. So it's basically saying, how fast are things going and what percentage of the factory volume is doing useful work. And conveyance does not count as useful work. So
only the value-added steps.
Yeah, if you break the factory down into cubic meter sections, and say, or smaller, it could be like 1 liter sections, and say, is a majority of this volume doing useful work? You would be astounded at how bad most factories are. They're like maybe 2 or 3%, including our factory in Fremont. So I think it's possible to get to at least 10 times that volumetric efficiency. So more like 30% ish, maybe more, and be 10x better, which means the factory can be 10 times smaller. And then the other thing is how fast are things going through the factory. It's like speed and density. The faster you go, like if a factory that's moving at say twice the speed of another factory is equivalent to 2 factories basically, and the company that will be successful is the company that with 1 factory can accomplish what other companies take 2 or 3 or 4 factories to do. So this is what we're trying to do here is say, okay, how do we with 1 factory achieve what maybe 5 or even 10 factories would normally be required to achieve?
And the vertical integration with the machine design teams at Groman and Hybar and others allows us to really accomplish that, because we don't have all these edge conditions between one piece of equipment and another. We can design the entire machine to be 1 machine and remove all of these unnecessary steps.
Yeah, I mean, basically Tesla is aiming to be the best at manufacturing of any company on Earth. This is the thing that's actually most important in the long run. I think, just from a company standpoint and from basically achieving sustainability as fast as possible, but I think also for long-term competitiveness, eventually every car company will have long-range electric cars. Eventually every company will have autonomy. I think, but not every company will be great at manufacturing. Tesla will be absolutely head and shoulders above anyone else in manufacturing. That is our goal.
Manufacturing is hard, and hard problems are fun to solve. Okay, now let's talk about formation. In a typical cell factory, formation represents 25% of the investment. And what is formation? It's charging and discharging cells and verifying the quality of the cell. Turns out we've charged and discharged billions and billions of cells in our vehicles, so we know a thing or two about that. The typical formation setup is you charge and discharge each cell individually. In our car, we charge thousands of cells at once. And we took our principle and our power electronics, leveraging Powerwall, vehicle battery management systems, and others, to dramatically improve the formation equipment cost effectiveness and density. 86% reduction in formation investment, 75% reduction in footprint.
They effectively have a power pack to do this.
You want to take this one?
Sure. So essentially what this translates to, based on what we know today, is about a 75% reduction in the investment per kilowatt hour or gigawatt hour. It's just basically 4 times better than the current state of the art to the best of our knowledge. And I think there's probably room to improve even beyond that.
Definitely.
Definitely, yeah. So we're able to, from a volume standpoint, actually get what, in a smaller form factor than Giga Nevada, we were able to get many times the cell output. So you can see, like, basically we can get a terawatt hour in less space than it took to make a gigawatt hour, 150 gigawatt hours. So this is pretty profound. It's like, I would actually not have thought this was possible several years ago, that we could actually get to terawatt hour scale in less space than what we currently envision for doing 150 gigawatt hours.
Yes, simpler accelerates terawatt hour scale, and that's what we need to do to accelerate our mission. And as Elon said, we're going to try to even improve on this as we push towards our goals, which are.
Yeah. So this is just for. This is just talking about Tesla internal cell production. As I tweeted out earlier, we will continue to use our cell suppliers, Panasonic and LG and CATL, and so this is 100 gigawatt hours supplemental to what we buy from suppliers. Yeah, essentially, this does like reduce our weighted average cost of a cell because, it allows us to make a lot more cars and a lot more stationary storage, and then long term, we're expecting to make on the order of 3,000 gigawatt hours or 3 terawatt hours per year. I think we can. I think we've got a good chance of achieving this actually before 2030, but I'm highly confident that we could do it by 2030.
When you look at the size of that factory on the previous page, it really shows how enabling all of these advancements are in achieving a 3 terawatt hour goal by 2030. And not only is all of that manufacturing innovation fantastic for enabling scale, it's also an additional 18% reduction in dollar per kilowatt hour at the battery pack level.
But wait, there's more.
But wait, there's more.
Yeah.
So we have a manufacturing system. We've got a cell design. What are the active materials we're going to put in that cell design? Let's talk about the anode first. Let's talk about silicon. Why is silicon awesome? It's awesome because it's the most abundant element in the Earth's crust after oxygen, which means it's everywhere. It's sand.
Yeah. Sand is silicon dioxide.
Yeah. And it happens to store 9 times more lithium than graphite, which is the typical anode material in lithium-ion batteries today. So why isn't everybody using it? The main reason is because the challenge with silicon is that it expands 4x when fully charged with lithium. And basically all of that expansion stress on the particles start cracking, they start electrically isolating, you lose capacity, the energy retention of the battery starts to fade, and it also gums up with a passivation layer that has to keep reforming as the particles expand.
Yeah, basically with silicon, the cookie crumbles and gets gooey. That's basically what happens.
Good analogy.
Yeah.
And current approaches to solve this, which exist, I mean, we have silicon in the cars that you're all in right now, are involved highly engineered, expensive materials in the scheme of things. Now, they're still great, and they enable some of the benefits of silicon. They just don't enable all of it, and they're not scalable enough. And you can see some of the things that maybe you've heard of, SiO, silicon with carbon, or silicon nanowires. I mean, that's kind of the space right now. What we're proposing is a step change in capability and a step change in cost. And what that really is to just go to the raw metallurgical silicon itself. Don't engineer the base metal. Just start with that and design for it to expand in how you think of the particle in the electrode design and how you code it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you saw this. Basically, $1 per kilowatt hours.
Yep.
Basically, if you use simple silicon, it's dramatically less than even the silicon that is currently used in the batteries that are made today. And you can use a lot more of it.
The anode would cost, with this silicon, and the anode costs $1.20 a kilowatt hour.
Yeah.
And how does it work? Start with raw metallurgical silicon, stabilize the surface with an elastic ion conducting polymer coating that is applied through a very scalable approach. No like chemical vapor deposition, no highly engineered high capex solutions, and then integrated into the electrode through a robust network formed out of a highly elastic binder. And in the end, by leveraging this silicon to its potential, we can increase the range of our vehicles by an additional 20%, just this improvement.
Yeah, it gets cheaper and longer range.
Yeah, and when we take that anode cost reduction, we're looking at another 5% dollar per kilowatt hour reduction at the battery pack level. And there's more. Let's talk about cathodes. What is a battery cathode? Cathodes are like bookshelves where the metal, the nickel, the cobalt, the manganese, or aluminum is like the shelf, and the lithium is the book. And really, what sets apart these different metals is how many books of lithium they can fit on the shelves and how sturdy the shelves are. Cobalt is a...
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to say, like, it's tough to exactly figure out what the right analogy is to explain cathode and anode, but a bookshelf is probably a pretty good one, in the sense that you need a stable structure to contain the ions. So you want a structure that does not crumble or get gooey, or basically that holds its shape in both the cathode and the anode. As you're moving these ions back and forth, it needs to retain its structure. So if it doesn't retain its structure, then you lose cycle life, and your battery capacity drops very quickly.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. And I think people are always talking about, like, oh, what's the cathode going to be? Is it NCA or whatever? You know, the thing to consider is just fundamentally what the nickel, the metals are capable of, and that's what we have on the chart here. $1 per kilowatt hour cathode of just the metal, using just LME, you know, London Metal Exchange prices, versus the energy density of just the cathode. And you can see nickel is the cheapest and the highest energy density, and that's why increasing nickel is a goal of ours and really everybody's in the battery industry. But one of the reasons why cobalt is even used at all is because it is a very stable bookshelf. And the challenge with going to pure nickel is stabilizing that bookshelf with only nickel. And that's what we've been working on with our high nickel cathode development, which has 0 cobalt in it. Leveraging novel coatings and dopants, we can get a 15% reduction in cathode $1 per kilowatt hour.
Yeah. Big deal.
But it's not just about nickel. You want to?
Yeah, sure. So in order to scale, we really need to make sure that we're not constrained by total nickel availability. I actually spoke with the CEOs of the biggest mining companies in the world and said, please make more nickel. It's very important. And so I think they are going to make more nickel. But there's also, I think we need to have a kind of a 3-tiered approach to batteries. So starting with iron, that's kind of like a medium range, and then nickel manganese as sort of a medium plus, intermediate, and then high nickel for long range applications like Cybertruck and the semi. Something like a semi truck, it's extremely important to have high energy density in order to get long range. So and just to give sort of iron a bit more time, like although if you look at the watt-hours per kilogram at the cathode level of iron, it looks like nickel's twice as good. But when you fully considered at the pack level, everything else taken into account, nickel is about maybe 50 or 60% better than iron. So iron is a little better than it would seem when you look at it at the pack level fully considered. It's not as good as nickel. Nickel is like 50 to 60% better, but it's actually pretty good. And so, good for stationary storage and for medium range applications where energy density is not paramount. And then, like I said, for intermediate, it's kind of a nickel manganese, and it's relatively straightforward to do a cathode that's 2/3 nickel, 1/3 manganese, which would then allow us to make 50% more cell volume with the same amount of nickel.
And with very little energy trade-off. I mean, just enough to have you still want to use 100% nickel for something like a semi-truck, but really not much of a sacrifice.
So different configurations for different applications.
And, beyond the metals, because a lot of people spend time talking about the metals, actually the cathode process itself is a big target. 35% of the cathode $1 per kilowatt hour is just in transferring it into its final form. And so we see that as a big target, and we decided to take that on. Here's a view of the traditional cathode process. Effectively, if you start at the left and you have the metal from the mine, the first thing that happens is the metal from the mine is changed into an intermediate thing called a metal sulfate, because that's just happened to be what chemists wanted a long time ago. And then when you're making the cathode, you have to take this intermediate thing called metal sulfate, add chemicals, add a whole bunch of water, a whole bunch of stuff happens in the middle, and at the end, you get that little bit of cathode and a whole bunch of wastewater and byproducts.
Yeah, it's insanely complicated. If you look at the total, like if you're just like, it's a small world journey of I am a nickel atom. What happens to me? And it's crazy. Like you're going around the world 3 times. There's like the moral equivalent of like digging the ditch, filling the ditch, and digging the ditch again. It's total madness, basically. And these things just grew up as they're just kind of like legacy things that it's like how it was done before, and then they connected the dots, but really didn't think of the whole thing from like a first principle standpoint, saying how do we get from the nickel ore in the ground to the finished nickel product for a battery. And so we've looked at the entire value chain and said how can we make this as simple as possible.
And that's what we're proposing here with our process. As you can see, a whole lot less is going on here. We get rid of the intermediate, metal, water, final product cathode, recirculate the water, no wastewater at all. And when you summarize all of that, it's a 66% reduction in CapEx investment, a 76% reduction in process cost, and zero wastewater. Much more scalable solution.
Yeah.
And then when you think about the fact that now we're actually just directly consuming the raw metal nickel powder, it dramatically simplifies the metal refining part of the whole process. So we can eliminate billions in battery-grade nickel intermediate production. It's not needed at all.
Yeah.
And we can also use that same process we showed on the previous page to directly consume the metal powder coming out of recycled electric vehicle and grid storage batteries. So this process enables both simpler mining and simpler recycling. And now that we have this process, obviously we're going to go and start building our own cathode facility in North America and leveraging all of the North American resources that exist for nickel and lithium. And just doing that, just localizing our cathode supply chain and production, we can reduce miles traveled by all the materials that end up in the cathode by 80%, which is huge for cost.
What's that, Kacey?
To be clear, cathode production would be part of the Tesla cell production plant. So it would just be, basically, raw materials coming from the mine, and from raw materials in the mine, out comes a battery.
And on that note, the way the lithium ends up in the cell is through the cathode, so then we should obviously on-site lithium conversion as well, which is what we will do using a new process that we're going to pioneer. That's a sulfate-free process again, skip the intermediate. 33% reduction in lithium cost, 100% electric facility co-located with the cathode plant.
Yeah. So it's important to note that there is a massive amount of lithium on Earth. So lithium is not like oil. There's a massive amount of it pretty much everywhere. In fact, there's enough lithium in the United States to convert the entire United States fleet to electric. Like all the cars in the United States, there's like 300 million or something like that. Every vehicle in the United States can be converted to electric using only lithium that is available in the United States.
Discovered today.
What we already know is exists.
People really haven't even been looking.
Yeah, people haven't been trying because it's just like widely available. So, but it is important to say, like, okay, what is the smartest way to take the ore and extract the lithium and do so in an environmentally friendly way? And we actually discovered again, looking at a sort of first principles physics standpoint, instead of just the way it's always been done, is we found that we can actually use table salt, sodium chloride, to basically extract the lithium from the ore. Nobody's done this before, to the best of my knowledge. Nobody's done this, and it's a sort of, all the elements are reusable. It's a very sustainable way of obtaining lithium, and we actually we actually got rights to a lithium clay deposit in Nevada.
Over 10,000 acres.
Over 10,000 acres. And then the nature of the mining is actually, I think, also very environmentally sensitive in that we sort of take a chunk of dirt out of the ground, or remove the lithium, and then put the chunk of dirt back where it was. So it will look pretty much the same as before, and it will not look like terrible, and yeah, it'll be nice. Nice.
Yeah.
So
simply mix clay with salt, put it in water, salt comes out with the lithium, done.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So we're really excited about this, and there really is enough lithium in Nevada alone to electrify the entire U.S. fleet.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, just what's in Nevada. That's basically there's so much damn lithium on Earth, it's crazy. It's one of the most common elements on the planet.
And eventually, as we said at the beginning, when we get to this steady state 20 terawatt hours per year of production, we will transfer the entire non-renewable fleet of both power plants, home heating, and battery and industry heating, and vehicles to electric. And at that point, we have an awesome resource in those batteries to recycle to make new batteries. So we don't need to do any more mining at that point. And you can see why.
Yeah.
The difference in the value of the material coming back from the vehicle versus the ground, you'd always go to the vehicle. And we recycle 100% of our vehicle batteries today, And actually, we are starting our pilot full-scale recycling production at Gigafactory Reno next quarter to continue to develop this process as our recycling returns grow.
Yeah, I mean, to date it's been done by third parties, but we think we can recycle the batteries more effectively, especially since we know our batteries, we're making the same battery as the thing we're recycling. So whereas like third-party recyclers have to consider batteries of all kinds.
Yeah, and just to think about what this actually means, the recycling resource is always 10 or greater years delayed because batteries last a really long time. But eventually, it is the way that all resources will be made available, and that's why we're investing in this recycling facility in Nevada.
Yeah. Long-term, new batteries will come from old batteries once the fleet reaches steady state.
Right. Highly sustainable.
Okay, so we just talked about scaling cathode and recycling. All of the benefits that you just saw are added to this benefit of a 12% reduction in dollars per kilowatt hour at the battery pack level. Almost at our halve the cost goal, but there's one more section. Take it away, Elon.
Great. So there's an architecture that we've been wanting to do at Tesla for a long time, and we finally figured it out. And I think it's the way that all electric cars in the future will ultimately be made. It's the right way to do things. So it starts with having a single piece casting, or a single piece casting for the front body and the rear body. And in order to do this, we commissioned the largest casting machine that has ever been made, and it's currently working just over the road at our Fremont plant. We have the it's pretty sweet. Making the currently making the entire rear section of the car as a single piece, high pressure die cast aluminum. And in order to do this, we actually had to develop our own alloy because we wanted a high strength casting alloy that did not require coatings or heat treatment. This is a big deal for castings, especially with a large casting. If you heat treat it afterwards, it tends to deform. It kind of does this like potato chip thing. So it's very hard to keep a large casting to have its shape. So in order to achieve this, there was no alloy that existed that could do this. So we developed our own alloy, a special alloy of aluminum that has high strength without heat treat and is very castable. So that's a great achievement of our materials team. In fact, in general, we've got a lot of advanced materials coming for Tesla, that new alloys and materials that have never existed before. So. So you're basically making the front and rear of the car as a single piece, and then that interfaces to what we call the structural battery, where the battery for the first time will have dual use. The battery will both have the use as an energy device and as structure. This is absolutely the way things are done. In the early days of aircraft, they would carry the fuel tanks as cargo. So the fuel tanks actually were quite difficult to carry. They were like basically worse than cargo. You had to kind of bolt them down. It was very difficult. And then somebody said, "Hey, what if we just make the wing tanks? What if we just make the fuel tank in wing shape?" So all modern airplanes, the fuel tank, your wing is just a fuel tank in wing shape. This is absolutely the way to do it. And then the fuel tank serves as dual structure, and it's no longer cargo. It's fundamental to the structure of the aircraft. This was a major breakthrough. We're doing the same for cars. So this is really quite profound. Effectively, the non-cell portion of the battery has negative mass. So we save so much mass in the rest of the vehicle. We save more mass in the rest of the vehicle than the non-cell portion of the battery. So it's like, well, how do you really minimize the mass of a battery? Make it negative. Make the battery non-cell portion of the battery pack negative. It also allows us to pack the cells more densely because we do not have intermediate structure in the battery pack. So instead of having these supports and stabilizers and stringers and structural elements in the battery, we now have a lot more space in the battery because the pack itself is structural. And what we do is essentially instead of having just a filler that is a flame retardant, which is currently what is in the 3NY battery packs, we have a filler that is a structural adhesive, as well as flame retardant. So it effectively glues the cells to the top and bottom sheet, and this allows you to do shear transfer between the upper and lower sheet. Just like if you have like a Formula One craft or like a racing boat, and you have carbon fiber face sheets and say aluminum honeycomb between them, this gives you incredible stiffness, and it's really the way that any super fast thing works. Is you create a basically a honeycomb sandwich with two face sheets. This is actually even better than what aircraft do, because aircraft do not do this. They can't do this because fuel is liquid. So in our case, the batteries are solid. So we can actually use the steel shell case of the battery to transfer shear from the upper and lower face sheet, which makes for an incredibly stiff structure, even stiffer than a regular car.
Yeah.
In fact, if this was a convertible that had no upper structure, it would be stiffer than that convertible would be stiffer than a regular car. So this is it's just really really major. So it improves the mass efficiency of the battery, and then those castings are also quite important because you want to transfer load into the structural battery pack in a very smooth, continuous way, so you don't put arbitrary point loads into the battery. So you kind of have to, you want to sort of feather the load out from the front and rear into the structural battery. It also allows us to use to move the cells closer to the center of the car, because we don't have the in the top one we've got that sort of all the supports and stuff. So the volumetric efficiency of the structural pack is much better than a non-structural pack, and we actually bring the cells closer to the center, and because they're closer to the center, it reduces the probability of a side impact potentially contacting the cells, because it has to go, in any kind of side impact has to go further in order to reach the cells. It also improves what's called the polar moment of inertia, which is that you can think of like when there's ice skater, arms out or arms in. Arms in, you rotate faster. So if you can bring things closer to the center, you reduce the polar moment of inertia, and that means the car maneuvers better. It just feels better. You don't know why, but it just feels more agile. So it's really cool. This is really major. Like I said, so 10% mass reduction in the body of the car, 14% range increase, 370 fewer parts.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I really think that long term, in any cars that do not take this architecture will not be competitive.
And it's not just at the product level a better product, but in the factory, it's a massive simplification. You saw the part removal. It's casting machines. It's the structural battery pack. So we're looking at over 50% reduction in investment per gigawatt hour, 35% reduction in floor space, and we'll continue to improve that as we make the vehicle factory of the future.
Yeah, so it's major improvements on all fronts, from the cell all the way to the vehicle.
And in addition to the improvements we just said on enabling additional range and improving the structural performance of the vehicle, it is worth another 7% dollar per kilowatt hour reduction at the battery pack level, bringing our total reductions now to 56% dollars per kilowatt hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
All right, so stacking it up.
5% a year. This is
we're not just talking about cost or range. We've got to look at all the facets. So range increase, we're unlocking up to 54% increase in range for our vehicles and energy density for our energy products. 56% reduction in dollars per kilowatt hour at the battery pack level, and a 69% reduction in investment per gigawatt hour, which is the true enabler when we talk back about how do we achieve this scale problem here.
Yeah. So I think it's pretty nice that investment per gigawatt hour reduction is 69%. I mean, who would have thought?
Yeah. Just happened to happen out that way. Yeah.
I mean, 0.420%, of course. Yeah. So what this enables us to do is achieve a new trajectory in the reduction of cell cost. And now, to be clear, it will take us probably a year to 18 months to start realizing these advantages, and probably to fully realize the advantages, probably it's about 3 years or thereabouts. So, it's not like if we could do this instantly, we would. But it's really, I think what this bodes for, it just really bodes well for the future, and means that the long-term scaling of Tesla and the sustainable energy products that we make will be massively increased. So, what tends to happen as companies get bigger is things tend to slow down. Actually, they're going to speed up.
And they have to speed up if we're going to accelerate the transition to sustainable energy.
Yeah. I mean, long term, we want to try to replace about, at least 1% of the total vehicle fleet on Earth, which is about 2 billion vehicles. So long term, we want to try to make about 20 million vehicles a year.
But I think it's important to point out that when we talked about 3 terawatt hours by 2030, the problem is a 20 terawatt hour problem. So everybody needs to be accelerating their efforts to accomplish these objectives. Doesn't matter where you are in the value chain, there is a ton to do. You need to rethink from first principles how you do it so that you can scale to meet all of our objectives.
Yep.
And Elon?
Sure.
What does this mean?
What does it mean for what does this mean for our future products? We're confident that long term we can design and manufacture a compelling $25,000 electric vehicle. This has always been our dream from the beginning of the company. I even wrote a blog piece about it because our first car was an expensive sports car, and then it was like slightly less expensive sedan, and then finally sort of a mass market premium, but like the Model 3 and Model Y. But it was always our goal to try to make an affordable electric car, and I think probably, like I said, about 3 years from now, we're confident we can make a very compelling $25,000 electric vehicle that's also fully autonomous.
And when you think about the $25,000 price point, you have to consider how much less expensive it is to own an electric vehicle.
Yeah.
So actually, it becomes even more affordable at that $25,000 price point.
Yeah. So we have and extreme performance and range. And we should probably talk about the Model S Plaid. What about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those numbers are crazy for a luxury sedan. Come on.
Yeah, we took the latest Plaid out to Laguna Seca on Sunday. It got a minute 30, and we think probably there's another 3 seconds or more to take off that time. So we're confident the Model S Plaid will achieve the best track time of any production vehicle ever, of any kind, two-door or otherwise. And you can order it now, and it's available basically end of next year. So, and now we'll move to Q&A.
Absolutely.
So we'll invite a few people on stage.
Come on up, team.
This is just a small portion of the team, but it would be great to show you some more of the team, and when we do Q&A, we can give various people different questions to answer.
Sounds great. Actually, I don't know how we're getting the questions.
Shout them at you.
Actually, I don't know either.
Is somebody going to read it to him? It's going to be beat Morse
Okay,
code.
well, you could just you can maybe get out of the car for 2 seconds and yell it at us. I don't know. Hey, how do we get any questions?
Oh, they're mics. Okay, wait for the mic.
Oh, there are mics. Okay, great.
All right.
Okay, we'll definitely need to give people mics because otherwise there's no way.
So a $25,000 car.
Yeah. There's
All right, we're gonna pass some mics out.
Who, that's their biggest complaint about EVs is I can't afford one.
We don't have a name for the $25,000 car yet.
It's a great question, though.
Within how many years? 3? Is that what he said?
Yes, we will be manufacturing cells in Berlin. Yep.
Thermal management system? For homes.
Oh, you mean like the home HVAC? Yeah, that's a pet project that I'd love to get going on. I don't know, maybe we'll start working on that next year. Because I just think you could really make a way better home HVAC system that's really quiet and super efficient and super energy efficient, and also has like a way better filter for particles, and and it works very reliably. And we've already developed that for the car. Like, so the heat pump in the Model Y is really pretty spectacular. I mean, it's tiny, it's efficient, it has to last for 15 years. It's got to work in all kinds of conditions, from the coldest winter to the hottest summer. So we've actually already done a massive amount of the work necessary for a really kick-ass home HVAC. And they can also stack them. So if you want to say, depending upon the size of your house or whatever, how much you need, you can just basically stack them, and just have a very compelling, super efficient home HVAC. And then you can also communicate with the car, and it'll know when you're coming home. So it's like, oh, I don't need to keep the house cold all day. I just cool it down because I knew you were coming home. So the pack can communicate with the car and just really dial it into when you actually need cooling and heating. It'd be great.
Fun product.
Yeah.
Who's next?
Hello. Hey guys, Eli here from Tesla Owners Club, My Tesla Adventure. Just quick question. So I'm a huge fan of car camping in my Tesla with my dream case, like my all-time favorite activity. Is it going to be possible to get climate control to the back of the Cybertruck? Because that would be the ultimate camping machine if we can get all-night climate control.
We'll try to do that. Thank you. I agree. That would be really cool. Yeah.
All right, who's next?
Hello. Long-time fan, Elon, great guy. Just a question: how does the ICE industry look like in the future?
Well, I don't think there will be an ICE industry long term.
That's going to dwindle.
Yeah. I mean, well, I guess there might be a few things that are it's a curious thing. There's still some steam engines made somewhere, but they're just basically sort of quirky collector's items. I mean, that will be the future of the internal combustion engine car.
Hi, Elon, to your left here in the white Model Y. Ryan McCaffrey from the Ride the Lightning Tesla podcast. Curious about Cybertruck. It was interesting to see where you had it in on the battery technology front. I'm sort of curious what you see for it in the production front. Is its volume, trucks are so popular in America, do you see its volume equaling the 3 or the Y in the future? And also, were you able to get Tesla is able to legally be sold in Texas as part of the Giga Texas deal?
Well, it's hard to say what the volume exactly would be for the Cybertruck. The orders are gigantic. So, and we have I don't know, well over 500,000 orders. I think maybe 600,000 or 600,000. That's a lot, basically. We stopped counting. So, I think there's probably room for, I don't know, at least a unit volume of 250 to 300,000 a year, maybe more. Now we are designing the Cybertruck to meet the American spec, because if you try to design a car to meet the global, the superset of all global requirements, it basically, you can't make the Cybertruck. It's impossible. It really is designed for the American market, but this is the biggest market. Our North American market is the biggest market for pickup trucks by far, or large pickup trucks. And then I think we'll probably make an international version of the Cybertruck that'll be kind of smaller, kind of like a tight Wolverine package. It'll still be cooler, but it'll be smaller because you just can't make a giant truck like that for most markets. So yeah, but it's going to be great. And I don't know. I think probably we'll be able to sell directly in Texas. We do pretty well right now, but it is a bit weird not being able to actually conclude a transaction in Texas. But it's got to be like, you know, a click on a server based in California. So, but weirdly we can do leasing in Texas, but not selling. Crazy. But hopefully that'll get cleared up in the future.
Yeah, Elon, great job with everything that you're doing. Thras Gerber from Gerber Kawasaki, your team's amazing. What I'm most curious about, these innovations are incredible, but on my drive up here, fully on autopilot for 400 miles, the entire state is brown, and this is ultimately about climate. Has there been some analysis done if all these things are achieved? What will its direct impact be on climate?
Well, I mean, I think it will have a very significant impact because it will stop the CO2 ppm from growing as it is every year. And I mean, I should say, like, I try to view the whole climate thing as a science question as much as possible. Science, you always question your hypothesis. Is it true? Is it not true? Or assign a probability to a given hypothesis. And I should say that my original interest in electric vehicles predates the climate issue. Like just when I was in high school, I thought, man, if we don't figure out electric cars, the whole economy is going to collapse when we run out of oil. So it's like, we better figure out electric cars and sustainable energy, or civilization is going to crumble. And then it was only kind of later that the significance of the climate risk became apparent. We were also able, using tracking and other types of technology, to access a lot more fossil fuels than previously thought, which is, helpful for lowering the cost of gasoline, but it's pretty bad for the total tonnage of CO2 that you could put in the atmosphere. It's now greatly beyond what people previously thought. So, but this is, as we were just going through in this presentation, it's like it is a absolutely monumental task to accelerate the advent of sustainable energy. I mean, the entire global economy is still, more than 99% dependent on, or quote, roughly 99% dependent on fossil fuels. So although electric cars kind of get a lot of press right now, they're still, and there's still very few, as a percentage of the total global fleet, is practically nothing. I would say, yes, less than 1% of the global fleet is electric right now. Because of 2 billion cars and trucks and whatnot in use. So there's a massive amount of work ahead, just insane, like hard to comprehend how much work is ahead to get the new vehicle production to be sustainable, to massively increase the amount of stationary storage, which is critical because renewable energy is intermittent. Wind and solar is intermittent. Sometimes the wind doesn't blow, and this obviously sun doesn't shine at night. So you got to have batteries, a massive number of batteries. So
it's hard to measure in direct impact, but it's an experiment that we shouldn't be performing, and the sooner we can sort of end the experiment, the sooner we can kind of move on in a fully sustainable way that is actually lower cost. I mean, I think the thing that people haven't fully internalized is once we do get to the 25K car, the ownership cost of that car is incredibly lower than the prior car. And then on the solar side and wind, with the cost of solar and wind coming down and with batteries coming down with them, the actual cost of energy on the grid is going down. So we're sort of moving towards a sustainable, lower cost future. So there's not really a sacrifice.
Yeah, that's true. It is a false dichotomy to say that it's either prosperity or sustainability. This is often used by oil and gas to say like, oh, well, do you want people to lose their jobs? Do you want lower people's standards of living? Do you want to, make all these economic sacrifices, really, in order to have sustainability? And the reality, as Drew was saying, is that a sustainable energy is going to be lower cost, not higher cost, than fossil fuels.
Elon, quick question for you, right here in front. First, thanks for having everyone, and as telling a friend, the one company to go work for that's going to have the biggest structural impact over the next 10 years at scale, it's probably Tesla. So kudos to everyone at Tesla for what they've done to this point and going forward. The two questions for you, as you've looked at the auto and the storage markets, I know you've talked about it at kind of 50-50 long term, but it seems like a lot of the battery cost curve achievements that you've presented today really make some of these storage opportunities much more feasible over the next 5 years. And so I guess the first part of the question is, does your calculus upon learning and improving these things change on that 50-50 mix, or is there a role where storage becomes bigger? And then the second part of the question, with all these huge grand visions, who's going to be with Tesla from a corporate perspective accomplishing these things? Obviously, Tesla can't do it alone, but when you look at some of the traditional auto industry or power, et cetera, I don't see a lot of other Teslas.
Well, actually, so there's a lot of companies in China that I think are doing great work with electric vehicles and also with stationary storage. Although we don't see that much in the U.S. yet, but I think probably we will in the future. I don't know. I mean, obviously, we're doing everything we can to encourage other companies to move to sustainable transport and also, make stationary storage batteries. We opened up, made our patents freely available. We really try to tell these companies, hey, you really need to do this or you won't exist in the future. But they don't believe it, So, I mean, we've talked until we're blue in the face. What are we supposed to do? But we really are hopeful that other companies will also do what we're doing, and that will make a sustainable future come sooner.
From a fundamental market size perspective, like we did the first ground up work to show the size of the market in terawatt hours, and they are roughly 50-50. 10 terawatt hours for transportation, 10 terawatt hours for the grid. And part of that is because the grid batteries, because when you're making a power plant, you're making a large investment, are 25-year assets or greater. If the grid batteries were 10-year kind of things, the grid market would be bigger, but because it's a longer duration asset, they're roughly the same size.
Thinking long term, is there any other segments that this new battery will be able to disrupt or electrify beyond just the initial Model 2 or cheaper sedan, like a boat, boring company loop, plane, boat?
Where are you, Golly?
Are you there? What's up? Right here.
Okay, great. It's like ventriloquism here, It's like we just get the sound out of the speaker and you can't tell where the heck it's coming from.
Yeah, any hints, or is the Model 2 such a big deal because it decreases the cost of transportation that is really the disruption? Or should we get hyped that this new cost curve opens up different vehicle categories like a high passenger density bus, boring loop, boat, plane?
I mean, there are batteries in limited production right now that do exceed 400 watt-hours per kilogram, which I think is about the number you need for decent range, medium range aircraft. And I think our batteries will, over time, start to approach the 400 watt-hours per kilogram range as well. I mean, I think over time we'll see all modes of transport, with the ironic exception of rockets, transition to sustainability, or to electric, basically. On the rocket front, what we're planning to do is like about 80% of Starship is liquid oxygen, and we're actually already running a power line to be able to use wind power to create the liquid oxygen. So we're making some decent progress on sustainability on the rocket front, but there's just no way to have an electric rocket, and it's important for the future of life and consciousness that we become a multi-planet species. So got to keep doing that.
Hi, Elon.
Hello.
Josh Phillips here, retail investor. I have a question in regards to the lithium and nickel industries and the likely price spikes and shortages of high-grade materials the EV industry is likely to see if they don't act fast to address future supply. Tesla have clearly made the right moves that are necessary, but there's a real worry that the potential supply issues and price spikes will create a drag on the rest of the EV industry and therefore a drag on global EV adoption. What advice would you give to the EV and mining industries to quickly solve this looming hurdles? Because for a sustainable energy future, the spice must flow. Thank you.
Yeah, indeed. The spice must flow. The new spice. I don't know. I think I'm not sure. I guess we can try to like basically overdo it in cell production and perhaps supply cells to others. But we do see the fundamental constraint as total cell production. That's why we're putting so much effort into making cells and kind of trying to reinvent every aspect of cell production from mining the ore to a complete battery pack. Because it's the fundamental constraint. We're not getting into the cell business because we, just for the hell of it. It's because it's the fundamental constraint. It's the thing that is the limiting factor for rapid growth. But we could certainly try to overdo it on cell production and perhaps sell cells to others. Although we are going at absolute top speed, so it's like it's not like we're holding it back. But I think just making really efficient cars and that have lower drag coefficient, low rolling resistance, efficient powertrains. That's kind of what we've done in order to make iron phosphate still have a good range. So the iron phosphate's lower energy density solution, but there's while there are some limitations on the total amount of nickel produced every year, there's really no limit on the iron. There's so much iron, it's ridiculous. So you can really scale up iron phosphate, at a raw materials basis faster, more than you can nickel. But yeah.
And just to point out, when we were walking through this presentation, we intentionally separated all the different aspects. The benefits of structural battery apply to a iron-based cathode in the same way they apply to a nickel-based cathode.
Yeah.
So you get longer range iron-based vehicles, and also the silicon benefit can apply to the iron-based vehicles as well. So we can do a lot to extend the range of an iron-based vehicle, which is why it's a key part of the roadmap going forward. And then I invited Turner up here to talk about what the mining industry can do.
Yeah. Diversification on the cathode side is obviously massive, and EVs are all about efficiency. And so for the EV industry, for the vehicle industry, we need to see powertrain efficiency really increase at all other companies matching Tesla powertrain efficiency so that everyone can have that diversified cathode approach where LFP is used in medium range and even really make a 300-mile vehicle
tough to get
with
other
LFP.
manufacturers to follow that line.
And really the goal that we were trying to present here was a model for vertical integration, strategic vertical integration that a lot of different people can do. What we need to see is vertical integration that shortens the process path from mine to cathode. And what we're doing here is novel, and we're trying to push the industry in that direction. So we're presenting a model here that anyone can follow.
Yeah, in fact, if there's anything that you guys want to comment on, feel free to step forward and say something.
I think the key is to be smart about your chemistry choices, your materials choices.
Spoke louder.
Yeah, if you're smart about your materials choices, the spice will continue to flow.
Yeah.
You don't need to use the same kind everywhere, and it's about strategically planning it out. And for miners, I think we are incentivizing them quite a bit to ramp up their production.
Yeah, and actually we had good calls. Like they're all motivated. I think that they've been sort of sitting back, being like, "Are you going to grow like crazy?" And we're like, "Yeah, we're going to grow like crazy." And then I think this indicates we're going to grow like crazy, and that's what the miners want to hear. And then they'll go make the investments.
Hello, Elon. This is Ben Limpick. I'm a musician. I was wondering, does Tesla have any future plans to make partnerships with music companies like it has done with Tencent Games or things like that for you guys to actually kind of expand your services for artists and other types of creative people to get involved in producing content that can be part of the Tesla ecosystem, or so other people that do creative things can get involved with you guys?
Well, we don't. We haven't really thought about that much, but I suppose it's probably something we should think about. We will be providing a title on Teslas. So we're providing more music sources that people can choose from, and generally trying to improve the entertainment experience in the cars. And I think actually as we go to a more autonomous future, the importance of entertainment and productivity will become greater and greater. I mean, to the degree that if you're just basically sitting in your car, the car is fully autonomous and driving somewhere. It's sort of like being the car is essentially your chauffeur, and then the things that become important are, okay, well, let's have good entertainment, and if you want to do some productivity stuff, then that actually starts to become much more important because you're no longer spending your attention driving the car. So it will be extremely important in the future.
Should we do some of the say.com questions? Okay. Should we do the second one?
Yeah. The first one I think we already answered. Like if we're able to make enough cells, which we'll try to do, or we will supply other companies. It's definitely not an intentional effort to keep the cells to ourselves. If we can make enough for other companies, we will supply them. We're trying to do the right thing for advancing the sustainable energy, whatever that is. So vehicle to grid, we get asked that a lot. I think one thing that's important to note is the vehicle to grid. It doesn't, unless you have a power cutoff. Like you need to cut off your main supply to the grid. Otherwise, if you lose the power in your house, you'll basically just backflow energy to the grid. So just having a reversal in the power flow does not actually keep the lights on. You need a whole separate system to cut off power to the grid. And I think there's also the case that people really want the freedom to be able to drive and to charge at their house. And it's obviously really problematic if you get to morning and your car, instead of being charged, it discharged into the house, and then you're sort of, okay, now I can either drive or use the battery to power my house. I think it's actually going to be better for people's freedom of action to have a power wall and a car separate, and then it's everything works. And you add that, you basically combine that with solar, either solar retrofit or solar glass roof, and local battery storage. So you basically become your own utility, and then the car is can be charged also with solar. I think that's like the stuff that works. That said, like we can certainly do vehicle to grid. I think we can basically enable that with software in Europe or something, right?
Yeah. We are future generations of power electronics. We will be able to do this more or less everywhere from a energy market participation perspective. But yeah, from a backing up the house, and it just so happens that the way the North American connectors are on all the cars in North America, it doesn't matter whether it's the Tesla connector or the connector that the other vehicles have, doesn't actually support powering your home. It's unfortunate. So you need an additional hardware to do that. But yeah, in the future, all versions of our vehicles will be able to at least do bidirectional power flow for the purposes of energy market participation. But even for that, it's important to remember that your car isn't plugged in 24/7. So it's kind of an unpredictable resource for the grid. It'll have a value, but it's not the same as a stationary battery pack.
Yeah, honestly, a vehicle to grid sounds good, but I think actually has a much lower utility than people think. I think very, very few people would actually use vehicle to grid, and we actually had with the original Roadster, we had vehicle to grid capabilities. Nobody used it.
Yep. Did you have a Roadster?
How do we find the engineers to do everything we're saying?
How do we find the engineers to do all these things? I guess we recruit a lot of engineers from all parts of the world. I think Tesla has a good reputation for doing exciting engineering, and that tends to attract a lot of the top engineers in the world, because they know that their efforts at Tesla will really serve the greater good, and we're super hardcore about engineering. Tesla is first and foremost an engineering company. It's like hardcore engineering is what we do. The sheer amount of hardcore engineering done at Tesla is insane. And if you look at, say, there's various surveys done of engineering schools, where do you want to go? What's your top choices? And actually the top two choices last few years have been Tesla and SpaceX. So sometimes it's Tesla first, sometimes SpaceX first, but those are the two top ones.
Yeah, I mean, if you are motivated to solve some of these problems, which are the hardest problems in the world to solve, that really fundamentally enable the future we all need, please reach out.
Yeah, and
help us work on these problems.
Really absolutely, and like you said, the battle is far from over.
Compete with Tesla when Tesla gets all the A students.
Less than 1% of the global automotive fleet has been converted to electric, and even maybe less than 0.1% of stationary storage has been done. So stationary storage has barely begun. Converting the global vehicle fleet to electric has barely begun. So there's still a massive amount of engineering work to be done at Tesla and other companies to accelerate this transition to sustainability.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
This is Jordan from Mark Asset Management. So you've talked about the importance of the factory, and you've mentioned the ground-up design process and a lot of the new things that you're going to be doing or started to do in Shanghai, Berlin, and Austin. Can you just maybe help us understand and quantify like how financially meaningful all of those improvements will be? And then given what you're trying to accomplish as a company, is it fair to assume that the vast majority of improvement will be given back to the customer in the form of lower prices?
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly we will try to give back as much as possible to the customers. It's not like, it's not like Tesla's profitability is crazy high. Our average profitability for the last 4 quarters is like maybe 1%. So just to be clear, it's not like, we're minting money. Our valuation makes it seem like we are, but we're not. So we do want to try to make the price as competitive as we can without like losing money. And if you lose money, then if you keep losing money, you'll just die. So we have to. This thing called profit is just like we need to bring in more money than we spend, otherwise we're dead. So.
But affordability is key to how we scale,
yeah.
Right? Like the demand goes nonlinear as you reduce the price of the car.
Yeah, I mean it's important to sort of separate the difference between affordability and value for money, or desirability of the product. So, for a lot of people, they want to buy a Tesla, they simply don't have enough money. We could make the car infinitely desirable, but if somebody does not have enough money, they can't buy it. Sometimes, people, kind of forget this. It's like, it's like, people have to have enough money to buy the car, and just making a car super desirable but expensive does not mean they can afford it. So it's absolutely critical that we make cars that people can actually afford. Yeah. So, we should go some of these things. Just scroll down or something. Oh.
When do you expect Tesla vehicles to beat ICE vehicles on initial purchase price? I think a way to answer that question is, in the classes of vehicles we sell today, we're already doing that.
Yeah, we're already pretty close. And then factoring in total cost of ownership, and the fact that electric vehicles require much less servicing, and are way cheaper to run. When you look at like total cost of ownership, and you can obviously lease a car. So if you just like lease a car or get a loan for a car, you've got your sort of monthly payment, and then your cost for either gasoline or electricity, and your cost of servicing, and the fully considered cost of an electric car is much less than a gasoline car of the same nominal purchase price. I mean, that said, and like maybe on the order of 3 years, when we can do a lower cost car, like a $25,000 car, I think that will be basically on par, maybe slightly better than a comparable gasoline car. So I think maybe it's on the order of 3 years-ish.
How have the technology advancements and increased vertical integration of battery manufacturing influenced your ability to improve the environmental and social impact of the supply chain? And I think, yeah.
I think we sort of have said that already.
Yeah.
Do you have some ability to scroll through this? Just scroll away.
I can't believe there's not more questions from the crowd.
We covered recycling.
Yeah. Well, just scroll until we've got stuff that we haven't covered.
Well, we definitely covered that top
yeah,
one.
a lot of the things we've already answered, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Covered that. That one. I think
we literally just answered that.
Yeah. Oh, I saw a cathode durability question. Let's go to that one. Go down, go down, go down.
It's interesting they didn't talk about a 1,000,000-mile battery today, have they?
Oh.
How are you going to address the cathode durability and cost and environmental impact trifecta? Is this something you're going to leave the upstream supply chain to solve? No, I think we tried to answer that directly. I mean, we really are looking at not just what happens in the cathode facility, but like currently outside the cathode facility that should really be inside, and removing processes that shouldn't have been there in the first place, and the use of reagents that are just costly and not necessary, and removing a bunch of wastewater from the process.
Guys, is there anything you want to add to? Maybe we could like go through everyone and like maybe say what you're doing and say a few words. I don't know.
Sure. I just want to reiterate the fact that this is a massive problem.
Massive problem.
And it seems like Tesla's on its way and ahead, but we need everybody's help because it's everybody's planet, and we're not going to get to 20 terawatt-hours by ourselves. So please think about this carefully as it affects everybody. So let's get on it.
And obviously, if you care about solving sustainability and doing hardcore engineering, definitely come work at Tesla.
Yeah, we went through a couple of the manufacturing improvements, and it kind of looks easy when you put together a nice slide deck, but the challenges are like this. It's super challenging when you take materials out of the process, when you integrate processes together. You have to do a lot of things at once, and that's like this immense engineering challenge. And so, like, to appreciate that, like, you need, like, to get through this, we need, like, the best engineers we've got. And we've got this awesome team. I just want to shout out also to all of our team watching. Like, you guys are awesome. Like, you absolutely kicked ass putting this together. And, yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Tesla team. Totally agree.
Yeah, that's it. Like, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Rodney Westmoreland, managing the construction here at Tesla. What I would like to say is, one, shout out to the team. The team has been working effortlessly. A very, very tough project here for 24 hours a day, it seems like, around the clock to have this complete. The thing that sets us apart from a lot of other construction, we have a construction company here. The thing that sets us apart is that we're integrated in the manufacturing process. So every detail that comes from Drew's mouth is directly implicated into the system that we're building. That way, what would typically take 3 or 4 months to create a specification, our design team is working right with the manufacturing team to allow us to speed that process up tremendously. So.
Yeah, it's definitely a important part of the vertically integrated approach is to be able to design the factory around the equipment, in fact, together with the equipment, so that you can build the factory at lower cost and more quickly.
Their factory and
I'm
factory
Scott.
construction
I
team.
focus on cell design. I think it's hard to put into words how inspiring this is. I've been at it for a long time with Tesla, and I really hope others do join us.
Since when, Scott?
Since 2005.
Yes.
With many of you, but thank you.
Six.
Yeah, a year before Drew, but who's keeping track? But I'm really stoked at what the team's been able to accomplish over the last, short period of time, about a year. It's been really an incredible transformation. I mean, hopefully what we've shown you inspires you to join us or join somebody else in the effort. And I couldn't think of a greater, more intelligent, more hardworking team to be working on this problem.
Hi, Peter. I lead the manufacturing improvement team. And I guess the point that I would like to make is manufacturing improvements is like the accelerator. So like you think about the execution that Rodney talked about in terms of how fast we've been able to put together this factory, which is amazing and something that's been really incredible to be a part of. That's not enough. What we need to do is improve the manufacturing technology. That's the real accelerator. And that's what we're really focused on. Elon talks about it all the time, that really going and improving that system is what will enable us to get to the scale and the cost that we need. And then the other point that I would make is on the recruiting side, like, it doesn't matter if you know about batteries. If you come from any industry, you can do something fantastic in the work that we're doing. We talk to people from industries that you wouldn't imagine. Like, I talked to a guy who makes golf balls, and he has stuff which is really impactful for what we're doing. So, you know, if you're in any industry and you want to be, you know, impactful here, like,
PETA was
come
there,
join us.
Kacey.
It'd be great.
Hi, excuse me. Hi, I'm Tony.
My name's PETA.
I've been working in lithium and cathode materials for almost 23 years now, and this is the most growth I've seen in a company. I've been here a little over a year and a half. We're hiring amazing people that are allowing us to leverage technology that most of the industry is struggling to achieve. So to answer the question, how are we going to do this? We are really advancing the materials manufacturing for cathodes and for lithium beyond what has been accomplished in the previous 20 years.
It's exciting. Yeah, my name's Turner. Work closely with the team. I've worked a lot with everyone here, and on the cathode and upstream materials side, it's really important that everyone understand that this growth is coming. This growth is real. We are going to make all of these batteries, and everyone needs to grow with us. The entire supply chain needs to grow with us. And if you have an idea that simplifies anything in the supply chain, come talk to us, come work with us, and let's do it.
Any existing specification is wrong. Any existing manufacturing method is wrong. Process equipment, it's wrong. It's just a question of how wrong.
Yes.
Quote
Exactly.
Elon Musk.
Yes, exactly. We're wrong. Just a question of how wrong. Just try to be less wrong.
So tell us how we're wrong and how we could do it better, so that we can accelerate and
So many people
improve
have
as
the
fast as
opposite
possible.
mindset of this is how it's always been done.
All right. Well, I guess
Don't try to change it.
thank you everyone for coming. I hope you liked the presentation. Very exciting future ahead. We're going to work our damnedest to transition the world to sustainable energy as quickly as possible, and your support and help is key to that success. So thanks again. Super appreciated, and look forward to the next event. Thank you.
Thank you.
So guys, that is quite a mouthful to take in all at once. We've been on the air for coming up to 3 hours. And it's remarkable the number of innovations. But of course, what seems to be most about this is it's certainly around the battery, around the manufacturing of the battery, around the design of the battery, around the materials in the battery, and around how the battery will be implemented inside the vehicle. And all those add up.
Those all add up. But the most important thing about this presentation is it ended at 4:20.
The 420 jokes never stop. So yeah, it's certainly something that it becomes a question of timing now. It becomes a question of how fast the ramp can happen, but what's surprising is that Elon really locked himself down to another pricing for a future car, which is surprising. 3 years out, $25,000. After the $35,000 questionable Model 3, I never thought he would do that again.
Yeah, because they took it off menu, and it'll be interesting to see how this $25,000 car plays out.
Yeah. So
right, they did say autopilot would be available,
which of course, if you can pay whatever upgrade cost but right
what
now
will,
8,000.
what will it be in 3 years? Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. So 8,000 now. Say it's 10 or 12,000. That's a big add-on to a $25,000 vehicle.
Absolutely.
Right. But then you could do something where you buy it for the summer when you're going to take road trips and then not pay for it for the rest of the year. Right. Yeah. It will be interesting. Yeah.
So let's touch base on some of the things that happened during this presentation in order. First was the million number of cars sold from Shanghai. 1 million cars in Shanghai rolled out of the factory is what a future number. It's what they believe the number will eventually get to, 1 million cars per year.
Wow. Yeah.
That's incredible. For
So,
one factory.
and of course, and we've heard this before about Shanghai, of course, supplying the region. Not a surprise.
Yeah.
There, geographically, it makes more sense to move those cars around close to the gigafactory. So selling them to other countries makes complete sense because they're closer and the shipping time is less. So that also reduces strain on Fremont, which is currently supplying everywhere except for China currently. So that's interesting. Another point that was made about the autopilot reducing crash numbers, basically reducing them by 10 times. 10 times lesser accidents based on people being on autopilot as it gets better.
Right. Yeah, I'm on this little team of 4 people in this project I'm working on, and 3 of us have Teslas, but the guy running the project doesn't, and he's just tired of hearing us talk about how awesome they are. And but then he said that his daughter is going to get a car soon, and that he's going to buy her a Tesla.
Yeah.
And like, wait, what? You talk about how we're crazy for loving our Tesla so much, and so why are you buying her a Tesla? That's an expensive car for a kid's first car, and you don't seem to be a fan. And he was like, oh, you're right. I'm not. But it is. I looked at which cars are the safest, and Tesla wins, and I want her to be safe, so that's what she gets. And I was just like, wow. And so there's a lot of ways you can come to Tesla. Either it's the performance, the environmental impact, or safety. And you're all welcome in the Tesla life.
Exactly. Another point, 26 billion miles traveled on the Tesla fleet. So again, that's a huge number that continues to grow, obviously, as Tesla sales continue to ramp. But a fantastically high number that they're able to gain from, again, in safety and other things, because they can record this stuff. They can keep track of these miles. They can see situations that happen over and over and plan for them in different ways. So absolutely makes it good for the entire Tesla community as these miles continue to ramp up.
Yeah.
Please buy me a Tesla. Daddy's buying me a Tesla.
Oh yeah, all you gotta do is be my boss's daughter, and you're golden.
And next point was about transitioning from gigawatt to terawatt. So we talked about this massive amount of batteries that are going to be required for the multiple vehicles, and the scale up as time goes along. And now terawatt is the new gigawatt.
Yeah, they want to 30x their battery production. That's incredible. Yeah, it was weird to see that chart where like, okay, 2019 numbers, and it's less than 1% of what they have for their ambitious goals. That's incredible.
That is an unbelievably large scale, is it not?
Yeah.
To be able to think about the problem in those numbers, that's incredible. Like you talk about car manufacturers. This is a completely different scale. This is something that Tesla is tackling, not only in the car but the energy market. Is a dramatically different amount than what we're used to hearing.
Yeah, I'm wondering how many cars does Toyota and Volkswagen make today, and think about that. That's orders of magnitude more than what Tesla makes, I'm sure, and Tesla wants to get to that level, and they're going to need a lot of batteries to do it.
Yeah,
absolutely. And speaking of the batteries, that's our next point, is the new cell. 46 by 80, that gives us basically 500% increase in range and a 6 times energy increase.
It was, no, you said 500% increase in range.
500%, I'm
no,
sorry,
capacity.
not range.
Capacity,
correct.
Yeah.
Storage, yeah.
Yeah, so you would have 1/5 the number of cells if you went to these larger cells. And then with 6 times the power, that also means you're going to be able to bump up your performance for the same pack size.
Or you can make a smaller pack and a lighter car and at the same price and the same range.
Right.
And the interesting about the configuration of these batteries, built into a structure. Glued in place. Going to make it tough for Sandy Monroe, but this is going to be part of the structure of the car. And of course, these new cans, the internal configuration different, no tab, the ability for many points of the energy to move between the top and bottom of the electrode, and placed in a pack that structure-wise will help the rigidity of the car. And of course, Elon even talked about locating the batteries into more center of the car, so giving you even further crush zones on both sides of the car for an accident before the pack would be affected at all. So again, fantastic innovations.
Right, and improving the performance of the car. So at the same time, making it safer. Those are normally everything in engineering is a trade-off. If you want more of this, you have to give up some of that. This one, you get both, and that's awesome.
That's a good point, Hockey Day.
And
I'm curious
the
about
number,
the cooling. They didn't bring it up at all, and somebody has suggested they would flow through, but you can't flow through if it's full of glue. So then, would that mean that they?
Well, you still could. It's just that the fluid would have to be, either at top or bottom or both, or is it possible?
Conductive paste, then you can.
Yeah, they have a cooling plate on top and bottom, and of course Tesla had increased its in the Model 3 with its number of channels as opposed to one continuous channel. So maybe they will still use the channels. It's just that they'll be glued in with it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, they could do it that way, or like you said, the plates. Maybe it's a thermally conductive paste, and they're cooling above and below the cells.
Possibly. 3 terawatts by 2030.
Yeah.
In volume.
Right, they're at 150 gigawatts now.
Yep. So what's that increase in the space of 7 years? I'm sorry, 10 years.
Wow.
So that is and
20X.
again, 20x. That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And he didn't really talk about it, But as he was doing the math, he was saying that they could get 7 times more out of a gigafactory that's only 0.75 of a original Nevada gigafactory size-wise. And at the beginning of the slide, they indicated they would need, 135 gigafactories at current capacity to reach these goals. So the reduction in gigafactories, but they never, I was expecting them to come out and say, so our plan is to put another 25 gigafactories on each continent.
Well, he didn't initially say that when he announced Gigafactory 1.
Yeah. With that, they talked about how they would have a smaller footprint and they would be able to produce 7 times more than what the current one can. So you could obviously figure that out with math as to, what the 135 turns into. But that still results in a number more of gigafactories.
Yeah,
and
as 19 and change, so 19, 20 gigafactories.
I bet you Clay Fields
that's just what their plans, right? They could make other improvements that bring that number down even farther.
Yeah.
I bet you that Clay Fields and other continents have just gone up in price.
Yeah, that was interesting about them being purchasing the land rights to use to pull lithium and basically use salt in order to pull the lithium from the existing clay or dirt, and then just dump the dirt back into the hole that they pulled it from, that we're not looking at an open pit mine.
And we know that lithium attaches to salt really easily because like the salt brines in South America, they pump up this salty water and they let it dry in the sun, and then they've got these lithium salts. And also, if you desalinate water, you end up with lithium salts as a byproduct. So we know that those bond tightly. So hey, they were just like, well, if this is what it's bound to all the time anyway, why don't we give it a chance to do it?
Do it the other direction, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then another innovation in the battery is having different packs for different uses. So they talked about the Semi and the Cybertruck having to require a different formula for the batteries based on how much nickel is in it in order to get more power or longer duration compared to less nickel in other packs with a less intensive requirement use. So then thereby saving some of the nickel cost to not be used in the lower application that doesn't require it in the first place. So having, three, they talked about 3 different use cases, 3 different formulas that can be used in different applications.
Yeah, that makes sense. You customize it that way instead of a one-size-fits-all cell and then just how you arrange your modules. Instead, you start at the beginning. What's the right chemistry? And that's what we're going to have.
Yep.
The stock market is insane. They're down another $28 after hours. After all of that.
Oh, it doesn't matter, Kacey.
They'll figure it out.
It really doesn't matter.
So Kacey,
what's going to do based on what we think is going to happen, you'd be a billionaire. It just doesn't matter.
Well, no, this one's very predictable. You buy on the hype and sell on the news. So there should be a lot of people who are looking to short term, make a trade, and they're going to have a small blip, but in the long term, they're irrelevant. So so today I'm not surprised at all that there were people making that buying the hype, selling the news play.
Yeah, I was surprised they sold before the news though, because it was down before this too. Hockey Day brings up a good point that they didn't touch on the interior, and when I did the configuration and put it up on the screen for the Plaid, we didn't see any interior changes either. The rear seat might have been the angle, but the rear seat looked like it had a little bit more sculpting than currently, like to kind of hold you in with all that power that's coming out of the car. And then we compared it
to double up.
Yeah.
Did they say less than less than 2 seconds, 0 to 60.
Yes, less than 2 seconds.
So that's getting into roadster territory, and it's not going to have the SpaceX package to help it get the thrust to do that.
So what does the Roadster do now? And then we looked at that compared to the Lucid Air, and we cut out the 80,000 because that's their Model S or Model 3 35 grand. That's not going to happen right away, and their Air Dream Edition is 169 grand, 465 mile range, 1080 horsepower, and 0 to 60 in 2.5, available Q2 2021, versus the Plaid. What's that? Q3, Q4. What did he say? Over 1,100 horsepower, 134 grand with a lot of the options turned on, and over 500 miles range.
200 miles per hour.
And 200 miles per hour. Lucid doesn't even say their speed, do they? No, they don't. They say the 0 to 60 and the horsepower.
Yeah, I'm surprised that what was the range of Lucid's vehicle? 512.
The 517 for the next step down, 517, and then for the one that competes with the Plaid, it's 465.
Right. Yeah. So I was just surprised that
for 35 extra $1,000.
That's true too. Yeah, I was just surprised that Tesla didn't put up just a range of 1 mile more than them.
I think he was trying not to acknowledge them, but also blow them away.
Right.
But so for the Lucid Dream Edition, you can get a Model Y call up for get the standard range, sit through the timeshare pitch, tell them no, I want the 35. I'm sure. Order a Model S Plaid, and then still come out cheaper.
That's funny.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the track time for that
the track time,
was
I don't know the Lucid track time.
below 9.
Below 9 for the Tesla. I think that the Lucid was 10 and change.
And the Lucid's below 10.
Below 10. Yeah. Okay. That's incredible.
Next, single casting pieces.
Yeah, on front and rear.
And of course, specialized metal for the casting, so that no extra treatment has to be done after the cast has been ejected from the mold. Yeah. So specialized metals, again, Tesla developing so that it fits the application that they're running. And kind of shocking that, like they said, it's not done elsewhere.
Right.
You know, outside of the Hot Wheels size cars, no one's doing this on a big scale. And again, another innovation that they're moving forward with.
I think it's cool.
Yeah, it's so weird how things like the whole mining supply chain.
Yeah, exactly. They talked about how it's always been done this way, so no one moves the needle. They just keep it as it is.
Yeah, and the same thing with casting, like you just said. Casting is not new technology. Why have other automakers not been innovating in that space? And supply chains, why have they not been innovating? Tesla talked about this a long time ago with their lithium, that they were getting lithium. The miners were processing it, and then when Tesla got it, they had to reverse the processing and just said, "Hey, stop doing that. You know, just give it to us in this raw form, and it'll actually be less work for us and less work for you." Yeah. And they're like, "Oh, okay, yeah." So I'm sure that a lot of the mining companies that they're happy to not do all that extra processing. You want to just buy it at step one? Sure. Save us a bunch of time, or maybe even outsource to other companies that we were having do some processing to cut into our margins. Great. We'll love to sell it to you in its raw form.
Absolutely. And of course, the final big one I had was of course, we've talked about this already, the 25K EV, allowing people to get into an EV at a lower price. Again, it's something that is 3 years away, but I can see people right now saying, "That's it. That's my next car," and they won't buy anything until it comes. That's exactly what happened with the Model 3. That's what I did as a family. We decided we were going to wait. We were going to put in an order, and we were going to wait. And there's no orders available, but 3 years is basically the time that we waited for a Model 3.
Yeah, if you have a Honda Civic or a Toyota Tercel or whatever you're driving now, if you might be thinking, oh, I could get a new car next year. Now you might, no, I can pay I can go get some maintenance done on this and make it last another couple years and buy that Tesla. What do you guys think they're going to call the 25K car?
Hopefully not Model 2. That was a stupid name.
Well,
and then people be like, I got the M2P. Or the M2D.
Yeah, I hope Tesla doesn't give it some. Well, they've already said before Cybertruck they were getting away from the model letter naming scheme.
Just call it a Tesla.
So,
and then if you say Tesla and XYZ, then you know you're talking about something more.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or Tesla car.
They have to give it some name.
Call it the Bug.
It's the Tesla car.
They've been spending so much time at VW. They're going to call it the Bug, the Beetle.
Oh my goodness.
The people's car. But so the iron batteries, I think that we're going to see more of them now outside of China. Because the paddle was the reason they were doing that one before, but now that they've got their own formulation, and they're not going to be using prismatic.
Yeah, and they're saying somewhere between a year and 18 months before they can scale up at Tesla's. Granted, a smaller battery production line, but they're looking to take that model and push it into a gigafactory.
Yeah.
Once they've got the bugs worked out and they understand what the cause and effects are for the different changes that are ongoing. They had made the point that there's still hurdles to get overcome here, but the basics are in place that they know they can achieve it with hard work.
And it looked it looked like they had the machines that make that ready. Like they were just going to pop them in the gigafactory after they get proven, and just have them on serial.
Right. That's where they made the point of every line could be a 7 times increase in the line's production.
We're in raw materials, water, and salt, and then out pop batteries on the other side.
Exactly.
Yeah. So this is the difference between like every week there's some story about a new battery breakthrough that some university or some lab has made, and it's not like just 3 months later you see those in production.
Right.
Those are research, and they're so far from actual production that it can take years to productize those breakthroughs. And that's the nice thing about having a team like this, where they really have a production line making gigawatt hours of this stuff, and they can run the tests and make sure so that when they find a breakthrough, it only really counts if it's one that they can actually produce at scale. It's not just one that they can, here's a little tweak. If we hand tune this, we get that just right. That's never going to fly.
So
so that the overall efficiency, or what was it? The overall reduction in cost or reduction in use? What was it? It was a 56%
overall.
When you added all the different pieces up, the materials, the process, the assembly, the material, everything was 56%. I guess reduction in cost when it comes down to
right. Yep.
Yeah.
That's a huge leap forward in battery tech.
Yeah, when
awesome.
they, and it was kind of interesting when they showed the chart about the price of batteries leveling out, because they knew that it wasn't the big gains that we had seen before. It was definitely leveling out, and that's why they had to figure out what could we do to reduce this dramatically still, because we're not at the point where batteries can be used for all cars cost-effective wise, and that we could have a car that is an average price of an entry vehicle is today.
And I was a little distracted with the equipment during where he was talking about the dry cells. Can somebody recap that for me?
So they talked about the different production procedures that have to happen in order to make a battery today. And they talked about adding liquid and taking it out and drying in large vats, and then of course testing that they're basically 25% don't match what they needed to.
Recycle them.
There's a number of different things that have to be put aside, put in a different application, reused again. But in this particular case with the dry, and of course he mentioned Maxwell and mentioned that they're now on a fourth iteration of machine from originally started with Maxwell to make this dry
electrode
battery.
Yeah. So the way that things have been done, you need to get this on there very consistent and super thin. So the way that is historically done is it's mixed with a solvent and then sprayed on and then put in these massive dryers where the solvent is effectively boiled off or evaporated off and then collected and then recondensed. And so it's all just to get this material on there smooth and consistent and super thin. So if they can instead just flatten out that material to the shape that they need and use that gets rid of all the solvents and all the drying and condensing associated with those solvents.
And all the energy use that goes with that as well.
Exactly. Yeah. And so just that they showed how much space that removes, because all that drying, it's like just this massively long pizza oven that things go through, and you can get rid of all of that.
Exactly.
Playing with that space.
So speed, cost, and probably reliability at the end when they have to test them.
Yeah.
So fantastic. Well, guys, we're over 3 hours. How long are we going?
I got one. When they were talking about phosphate, I have the subtitles on, or closed caption or whatever it is on YouTube, and it kept translating that as Facebook MySpace.
Phosphate.
Phosphate, yes.
Phosphate, yeah. So you can tell what kind of stuff their AI has been trained on. It's not on chemistry.
Like a fair amount of it. Look at all the homework stuff that goes through there. Man, so
anything else I've missed or points that you guys wanted to add as we get here to the end?
You mentioned the price parity with fossils and their eventual death.
You're right. He didn't mention redwood by name, though,
he did not.
Did he?
That's recycling it, and then But the death of fossils, let alone the death of each individual unit of his cars. And he said
they're now coming into 10-year-old cars, and those cars at some point will be recycled. He said that currently recycling is being done by third parties, but of course there is a value to the pack, and it's almost like a bottle return scenario today, where the pack is worth X amount of money. If you return your Tesla to a junkyard, you can rest assured that junkyard will either sell that pack to somebody else that's looking for a second use for the pack, or they will turn it in for recycling because they will get paid for that pack.
Just like the Prius pack.
So exactly. Unless someone's wanting to bury money, it's not going to a landfill. It most likely will have a second use in something else, or possibly sent right back to a third-party recycler that will take the materials out. And they also indicated that they believe that with that Nevada company that they did name, that they felt that they would be doing their own recycling as well.
Yep. And then with the Rich mentioned that with the batteries he's finding, that they are ending up with a lot of them are ending up with no batteries in the cars. So, like you said,
they're stripping the batteries out and selling them as a shell.
Exactly. You get just a car.
Yeah. So but of course the amount of used cars being sold as salvage, if you can't supercharge it or can't use it in even CHAdeMO, that's going to dramatically reduce the viability of those cars too. So
you're gonna like do like all these other projects and take the make a Tesla S inside a XYZ car.
Yeah.
Not too many people are gonna do that.
Well, exciting stuff. Thank you all.
absolutely. And that wraps it up. Man, who was with us
We still
for
have 12 people left.
Yeah. All
the
right.
total time? Talk about
Hardcore
super fans. Thanks very much for sharing with us and enjoying this run through of Battery Day. I'm not sure if there will be a show tomorrow at this point because, man, I am beat, and I'm sure these guys are beat as well. But certainly we'll be putting some information together on the Twitter feed at the Tesla Life. The Facebook feed certainly will be peppered with information that we've learned tonight. And we will talk to you again next week. Thanks very much for watching. Thanks, Lee Moon, for the music we're not playing right now. And we will see you. Oh, you are? Okay. Very good. I just can't hear it.
Exactly.
Just can't hear it.